trust, actually. I've had it a couple times. It's not preferred, but it's not as bad as I thought it would be.
Yeah, there's some things that I like cauliflower has on.
You know what the grossest food in the world is? Zucchini. Or cucumbers are the grossest food potentially in the world. You like a good cucumber?
Talking to me or Jordan?
You.
No, I don't.
Good answer. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Stokastic.com NBA Deeper Dive. Let's go. 8 games today. Talking a little basketball here. I'm Dave Loughran at Laffy_D. Of course, today's show presented by No House Advantage. Joined by Adam Scherer at Ship My Money DFS. Just took a little midday snooze. He's up now, ready to rock. How we doing, man?
Doing pretty well. Actually made money on Saturday and Sunday, so feeling good.
Nice. Dude, naps have the opposite effect on me. I take a nap and I wake up and I just I'm more tired than I was when I took a nap.
It's 50-50 for me. Like I have to actually fall asleep for a while. Like I can't do the 30-minute nap thing. I'll just feel awful.
So how long was your nap?
I don't know, 2 hours.
Oh, okay. That's decent. Yeah. So okay. It's a short night. What's up? Yeah, turn that. Yeah, I was going to ask the same thing. Turn that mic up a little bit. Crank that up a little bit. You still got a sleep person tone of voice. So maybe it'll balance out a little bit through the show. But as of now, pretty light. Talk again.
Better now?
Probably down a little bit, but that's better than it was. Yeah. All right. Anyway, happy to have you guys with us talking a little basketball. Monday, coming off conference championship. Can I tell you something, man? I know nobody wants to hear me talk about football, so I'll keep it real short. I had no emotions when the Eagles won that game. I they didn't cheat, but it almost felt like they cheated playing against the team. Do you know what I mean? Even as
Eagles there was no, for the whole game, basically, there was no suspense. It was just all right, they're down to no quarterbacks. Obviously we're going to win.
Right. Dude, they had a guy in there that actually couldn't throw the football, and Christian McCaffrey was the other option. Right. Crazy. Oh, God. But here we go. Chiefs, Philadelphia Eagles. Should be fun. And listen, we should be happy. But it did feel odd. And then all the penalties and just weird stuff. But we'll take it any way we can get it. But here we go. Oh, and by the way, thank you to all 90 of you, including myself, to hit that thumbs up already. If you haven't done so yet, take a single second to atone for your sins. You know the drill around here. Makes my life easy. You don't have to hear me nag all show about getting that number up. It helps us keep the lights on around here. So subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so yet. Hit that thumbs up and let's get into it. First thoughts here. Just given that we have, just looking at, were you on the strategy show this morning? You were, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Just looking at this slate, knowing what we already know, and I'm not asking for obviously an exact number, but just given that some of this value is so heavily concentrated on certain teams, are there some teams today that you're just not of course, not excluding from your player pool, but are there certain teams that you're just very low on and more than just a couple of them?
Yeah, there's quite a few where the whole team is basically just going to be oh yeah, they're fine in tournaments. They're all 5% owned and there's nothing that stands out, at their current price tags because the whole team's healthy or prices have adjusted or whatever it may be. There's quite a few teams like that today.
Okay. Yeah. And it is insane how many Eagles fans are in chat. I've noticed the same thing. Go Birds. Trouble with the super chat. Thanks, man. Paying it forward for Loughran and Gajeski. Anytime touchdown special. Yeah, that was huge, dude. Congrats. He had super chatted us with anytime touchdowns and we had given him 4. And I think they all hit. You may have gone off the board on Higgins, but everything else, yeah, we got in there. $20 in the 400. He said, also like the video, pay the gents. Yeah, congrats, man. That was pretty awesome. Was happy to see that from the what was it, matchup show that we had on Friday. All right, let's dive into this one because we got 8 games in about 54 minutes before we turn it over to Live Before Lock. Orlando at Philly. All right, so Orlando right now, 9-point dogs, 229.5 total. You and I were talking about this before the game. I'm not, making any proclamations here, but I wouldn't at all be surprised if Embiid doesn't play in this game, just as kind of a scheduled maintenance spot, 9-point home favorites against the Magic. The total dropped from 233.5 to 229.5 for whatever that's worth to anyone out there. But we'll start it with Orlando first. And the same thing you said when we were on this same show just a few days ago. Okeke is the only guy on this entire roster that's sidelined right now.
Yeah, this team from a DFS standpoint is just pretty tough to like at the moment. This is one of those teams that I think we were alluding to at the top of the show where, if you're playing a ton of tournament lineups and you happen to be getting Paolo Banchero in a lineup here or there, or Fultz or Carter, that's all fine, but they're not guys that you're going out of your way to build around. They don't stand out as top options on this slate. I think Banchero is the most appealing play from Orlando. His salary just keeps falling. He's down to $6,800. You're still typically getting like 32 to 34, 35 minutes from him. So he is pulling 7% ownership, which is perfectly fine. Wendell Carter Jr. should give you around 30 minutes. He's just really tough to get to today because you have a lot of really good center options as usual, but on this slate, a lot of them are less expensive as well. So you have better value for a cheaper price tag. And then if you do end up being able to pay up, you have potentially, Embiid, you have Sabonis, you have some other guys that are just more expensive than Carter, but project a lot better. So it's pretty tough to get to much of him. Fultz should play around 30 minutes at 5,700. Only 1% owned, makes him interesting in tournaments here and there. 5K Cole Anthony's going to average around 24, 25 minutes. Franz Wagner at 6,500 should play 33 or 34. But all of these guys, they look okay, but you can just pretty quickly start naming a bunch of guys at their respective salaries or positions that are going to be bigger priorities.
Do you feel, and of course, we're still projecting Joel Embiid in as we should be. There's nothing to suggest yet that he's not going to play. And if we get that news, we will definitely let you know about it. But do you feel similarly when it comes to Philly, or is this one of those spots where, because just by the looks of it, right, from ownership, looking at the boom bust score, Harden has 3.5% positive leverage, which is nice. Melton's at 2.2, but of course, these guys very low owned today. Is this one of those spots where if Embiid plays, because if he doesn't play, that changes the complexion of this entire team, and then we could talk about that. Maybe we'll get that news, if not live before lock will. But if he does play, is this one of those spots where you're still going to want some pieces of Joel Embiid and James Harden because of the ceiling, but not to get a ton of them?
Yeah, pretty much. If Embiid's in, Harden is always a good option, but we have seen his playing time come down a little bit recently. We had seen him playing 38 to 40 minutes most nights. Now it's more like 35 to 36. Obviously, his production comes down a bit with Embiid in also. So he's perfectly fine. It's a good matchup against Orlando. He's pulling 6% ownership. We do have him going a little bit under owned, 10% chance of being optimal. But you have Shai Gilgeous-Alexander at this price tag as well, who I think is the priority in that price range. Then you have plenty of other guards that you can get to also. So it's just difficult, especially where he's point guard only on DraftKings to, say he's a true priority, like you're building around James Harden, just because there are going to be pay up options that look a little bit better. But in tournaments, completely fine. Same goes with Embiid. The type of ceiling he has, and he's perfectly capable of putting up that game where you just have to have him to win, like we saw on, I think it was Saturday, where he went for like 87 DraftKings points. Yeah. If he does that, it doesn't matter if he's 11-4, 12-4, 13K. Like, you're going to need to have found a way to get him into your lineup. But obviously you're not going into a slate expecting nearly 90 fantasy points from anybody. So it's difficult to really build around him because you have a 5K Thomas Bryant, a $5,100 Precious Achiuwa, a ton of mid-range centers, and then also other pay-up guys. So Harden and Embiid are the two certainly that I'm most interested in. It's just relatively difficult to get to them. Then you have Melton, Harris, Maxey, all relatively interesting. Melton only played 22 minutes last game, though, after playing north of 30 a few games in a row. So we don't really know where the playing time is going to land there. I think expecting around 28 on average makes sense, but really it's probably like either 22 or 32. Harris, we know, takes a backseat usage-wise with Embiid, Harden, and Maxey, and Maxey's playing about 30 minutes off the bench at 6,500. It's very difficult to get there. So this game in general, I think any of the four main guys on Orlando, Harden, Embiid, they're all good contrarian plays, but they're just guys that are going to be difficult to get a lot of.
If Embiid sits, it's a weird one because there were games where Harden was out that Maxey was in and Embiid was out, or Maxey was in and Harden was out and Embiid was out as well. Harden and Maxey on the floor together without Joel Embiid. Harden's at 1.42 DraftKings points per minute. I don't even think we need to look too far into the numbers to know that Embiid's absence makes a massive difference here. Harden, 27% usage rate. He's already one of the preeminent playmakers in the league. His ownership right now is in the single digits. Where do you think how much of him do you think you'd be getting to with him and Maxey? And then we can talk about the center position. We can keep it quick because we don't know, but in the event that Embiid sits.
Yeah, I mean, if Embiid sits, I would expect to get to a ton of Harden because that would move him ahead of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander at that top tier of guard options. It would make him one of, if not, it would make him the second best probably pay up option. Luka obviously just is in a category of his own whenever he plays. But yeah, he would become a clear priority if Embiid is out. He's played 6 games this year without Embiid, 1.37 DraftKings points per minute. You said 1.42, I believe, overall for the season without Embiid on the floor. So
with Maxey
clearly he would look better. Maxey and Harris would look better. Melton would look better. And then you could get Montrezl Harrell starting at 4,500. That would just give you another good value center as well.
Yeah. So we'll pay. That's a good thing about Live Before Lock. I mean, I think we'd probably get this news prior to flipping the page, but we'll see. Let's talk about the Lakers in Brooklyn, though. This is where it gets real interesting. And thank all of you. Thanks to all of you for atoning for your sins and hitting that like. I see it in chat. I will say, too, Samuel Winchester. Welcome to the team, man. Badge looks good on you. Guys want to join? Badge, join buttons right down there. Subscribe, join, whichever one it is. I don't know. I already am. Get the free super chat. See all those badges in chat? Yeah, the custom emojis. We do other stuff for you guys around here as well. But if you want, it's right down there. If not, that's okay too. And then a super chat too for you, Adam. Jansen White said, how do you approach an entry into a FBWC qualifier? The field's 1,000. But since I'm playing with so many sharks, I don't know how to be different.
I don't like, I mean, you should be willing to take risks a little bit more since like that's incredibly top heavy. Obviously, when you talk about normal tournaments, they're top heavy as well, but you're still getting like 20% of the field paid out. There is value in cashing. In qualifiers, it's pretty much first or you're not winning. So there's value in, trying to be a little bit more contrarian, maybe, throwing an extra contrarian guy into your lineup. But I mean, realistically, I still approach it the same way that I do like other 1,000 field tournaments. Yeah, I mean, you want to build a good lineup that pivots in a couple of spots and then just hope to get lucky, basically.
All right, let's talk about the Lakers here. This is where we get into the weeds a bit. Lakers are 9-point dogs, 230 total again in Brooklyn against the Nets. No LeBron, no Anthony Davis. Reeves still out, of course, but no LeBron, no Anthony Davis in this spot. When I was talking at the beginning of the show about just seeing, a ton of the top plays, a ton of the top value coming from one specific or a couple specific teams, the Lakers are certainly one of them today. From Thomas Bryant to newly acquired Rui Hachimura. Russell Westbrook is now back into the mix at a mid 7K price point. Even Dennis Schroeder picking up north of 15% ownership today. So this Lakers team without the two top dogs looks a whole lot different in a somewhat decent matchup as well.
Yeah, looks very, very good. And this is a team that, recently we haven't been able to get to because you've had Davis and LeBron in. These guys are not priced for one or both of them to be out at this point. Without Davis or LeBron on the floor, 1.4 DraftKings points per minute, 34% usage rate, 46% assist percentage for Russell Westbrook this year. He's pulling 39% ownership, deservedly so. Thomas Bryant is 5K. He's averaged 1.11 DraftKings points per minute without either of those guys on the floor. The playing time with him is always somewhat of a concern, but with Davis out and LeBron out, I think it's likely that you're getting at least upper 20s from Thomas Bryant, which makes him look really, really good at this salary. Rui at 4,100 should be a good option. We saw him play 24 minutes last game. I think it's likely that you get 26, 28, if not more from him. So at 4,100, that's going to look good. He's pulling 26%. Schroeder's been a fantasy point per minute guy, 23.8% usage rate, 16.5% assist percentage. The one thing I will point out there is he does have a 64.5% true shooting percentage in those 228 minutes. Dennis Schroeder is very unlikely to carry a 64% true shooting percentage going forward. So maybe that production comes down a bit, or it probably does come down a bit, but you're still talking about, a $5,500 or $5,400 Schroeder that should get you somewhere between like 0.9 and 1 fantasy point per minute in a pretty decent spot as well. So those four guys all pulling ownership, and I think that they should. Then you get to the Troy Brown, Patrick Beverley type guys. Troy Brown's really cheap at 3,300. The issue is that even without Davis or LeBron on the floor, he's still only produced 0.6 DraftKings points per minute this year. He's just a really unappealing fantasy option. So, if you're playing 150 lineups, you get to some Troy Brown here or there, fine. But I don't think he's a priority even at that price tag. Patrick Beverley, only 140 minutes without them on the floor, 0.47 DraftKings points per minute on 44.6% true shooting. That true shooting number certainly should come up, but kind of like with Troy Brown, Beverly still isn't likely to be a great fantasy option. So those are the other two guys that are getting a little bit of ownership here. I think the clear priorities are Westbrook and Bryant, then Rui and Schroeder are kind of the second tier, and then you get Troy Brown and Patrick Beverly.
So we have 8 games on the slate, a decent amount of players elsewhere pulling pretty significant ownership, but just to put it in context, like right now in our ownership tool, we have the 3 highest owned players are all from the same team. How comfortable are you having lineups with 4 Lakers today on an 8-game slate?
I don't love it, but I'm not going to set a rule against it. I don't think it's going to happen all that often because there are very good plays from other teams. But
my guess is you get a ton of 3.
Right. Yeah. I think you'll get 3 a lot, whether it's, Bryant, Westbrook, Rui, Bryant, Westbrook, Schroeder, Bryant, Schroeder, Rui. I think you'll get 3 quite a bit. I wouldn't expect to get 4 all that much, but I'm not going to just exclude it because you very easily could just, they're cheap enough and playing a big enough role here where you very easily could get big games from all 4 of those main guys.
Top option from the Lakers outside of Bryant, Rui, and Westbrook. So the non 30+% guys right now.
Schroeder.
It is Schroeder. Okay. How about on the other side of this one? Brooklyn Nets still without Kevin Durant here. Kyrie Irving's price point has climbed pretty significantly. Of course, we're still waiting to see if Luka plays, if Joel Embiid plays. There's no LeBron. Oddly enough, like you could be staring down the barrel of a slate that doesn't have the 3 highest priced guys on this slate. If things break a specific way, it's entirely possible that, your highest owned players end up being Irving, Lillard, and Steph Curry today. So, wait, I mean,
how do your highest owned players end up being
highest price players? I'm sorry.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Did I say owned?
I think so, or I misheard you.
Yeah, my fault. Highest price, because I'm saying you could be without Luka, Embiid. James is already out.
Yeah.
Is this?
Yeah. I'm following now. I
got you. Okay. That's my fault. Tripped you up. See, when you're half listening, actually, I guess you were full listening.
Yeah.
But this Kyrie Irving has certainly come on strong, particularly of late. With Kevin Durant out, is he still somebody at 10% that you like today against this banged up, shorthanded Lakers team?
Yeah, I mean, it's still a good spot. He's produced about 1.4 DraftKings points per minute without Durant. You're likely to get about 38 minutes. The issue is just that price tag has fully adjusted. So it's kind of similar to Embiid and Harden, assuming Embiid is in, where Kyrie is certainly capable against the Lakers of giving you that score where you don't really care what his salary was. You needed to get there. If he goes for 65 DraftKings points, you're probably going to have wanted him unless like Luka goes for 90 or something. But it's just you're paying full price for him. You can get SGA for quite a bit cheaper, producing the same fantasy points per minute. So I think that the 10% ownership coming into him makes sense. Nick Claxton's the other appealing part here. He's been playing really, really well and also playing huge minutes without Kevin Durant. We've seen him average about 1.25 to 1.3 DraftKings points per minute without Durant on the floor. He gets a Lakers front court without Anthony Davis. There's not going to be much defensive resistance from the Lakers. So that's always nice. It's just that you have those cheap centers. Like you're going to build very, very strong lineups by going Achua, Bryant, other cheap guys. And so that's why you're only seeing the 10% ownership come into Claxton and his price tag, has elevated as well. But I think that him and Irving are the 2 most appealing guys to get to here. Seth Curry at 5,300 looks okay. If Ben Simmons is out, that should help to solidify Curry's playing time as well. But I think I wouldn't say anybody from the Nets is a true priority in the context of the entire slate. I think Irving and Claxton are the 2 biggest priorities from the Nets, though.
Do you think Nets fans have buyer's remorse on Ben Simmons yet?
I mean, yeah, I think they do. I don't necessarily think they should.
Why?
Because I still don't think he's bad. He just doesn't do what people want him to do.
Yeah, he also just doesn't feel like playing either.
Yeah, that also.
That's kind of what I was referring to. He did have a nice turnaround hook shot that came. It was solid, dude. It got easy 8 feet from the basket. Yeah. I'm telling you, that guy, not great. Even Josh Ingerman soon enough will be like, yeah, he asked me if I would rather have Ben Simmons back in Philly. No. I mean,
yeah, I'd rather have Harden.
Yeah. But also Ben Simmons just doesn't fit the team anyway. So even if he was better than Harden, Harden's a better fit than Ben Simmons is. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see if We'll see if he ends up playing. As of now, I think we could keep it moving. You want to talk the Warriors and OKC?
Yep.
All right. Let's go on the Golden State here. This Golden State team right now, laying 5 against the Thunder. They're without Lou Dort today. We'll get to that in a second. Wiggins is very popular today, so that should be fun. But Golden State, Klay Thompson, just a ton of mid-range options on this team. Like, you can come into Golden State outside of Steph Curry. There's really nobody that's particularly expensive on the Warriors anymore.
Yeah, and it's just another one of these teams where it's very difficult to point to one guy and be like, oh yeah, this is really where you want to get to. Klay and Draymond, they're pulling the most ownership here, and they probably should. On DraftKings, you have shooting guard, small forward eligibility for Klay, so that's really appealing. He's coming off of a game where he played about 38 minutes. On average, you can expect 34, 35 from him. So I think he's just going to fall into lineups here and there. We have him being optimal about 11% of the time. Draymond at 6,300, same kind of thing. It's not like you're looking at Green's salary at 6,300 and being like, wow, he's way underpriced or anything, but you're probably getting about 32 minutes from him. He's just going to fit nicely into the power forward slot in probably around 10% of your lineup. So those are the two guys getting the most ownership here. Wiggins at 6K, I assume playing around 30 minutes, not ultra exciting, but pulling 5% ownership. And then Steph is always an interesting option in tournaments just because he's Steph and, can just go out there and have those massive games. But in terms of, practicality and getting to him in lineups, like clicking his name over Luka and Kyrie and SGA and Harden and, other guys, like it's really, really, really tough to get there. So, anytime he's 2 or 3% owned, I think you can argue he's a good play, but I also just realize it's going to be very difficult to actually get him into lineups.
Right. I mean, at the same breath, though, like you were alluding to, it only takes 6% to get, twice the field on a guy like Steph Curry.
Right.
In a spot like this. But yeah, 3%, 10-5. I hear what you're saying. On OKC, though, without Lou Dort, we have to start here because Aaron Wiggins, expected to start 3,400, 32% ownership right now. It's you and I actually had a really long conversation on the show. Maybe it was the strategy show the other week or the deeper dive, one or the other. I can't remember, but just about how, like, when you get these certain type of wing players that are very, very popular on any given slate that, don't bring the ball up the court. They're not necessarily significant playmakers. There's other playmakers on the team. They're not elite rebounders. They're not centers. That can get tricky when they pull a lot of ownership. So I would be lying to you if I said I was surprised that he's not minus 10% leverage in our boom bust tool.
Yeah, but at the same time, still projected to be in the optimal lineup nearly 1 in 4 times.
Yeah, 24%.
It just speaks to how cheap he is. Yeah. He's also started 8 games this year. And we talk a lot about OKC having inconsistent rotations outside of their main guys. But in the 8 games that Wiggins has started, he's averaged 30 minutes per game and 0.83 DraftKings points per minute. He is... there's no reason to think he's not giving you 28 to 30 minutes here. And he's just so cheap at the weakest position that it's not about, what you're really expecting him to do. Like, he projects for 6 to 7 times his salary. So, clearly projects as a top point per dollar option. But the second part there is, we haven't talked about any small forwards that we really like paying up for. We've talked about a lot of centers we like. We've talked about a ton of point guards that we like, and there's more to come. So it's just, it's, for one, you're getting that good point per dollar value there, but the opportunity cost there is also the lowest, and it's going to allow you to pay up at those positions that you want to. So anytime you're talking about playing a 30-something% owned Aaron Wiggins, there is reason for, to hesitate, because he is unlikely himself to put up a score that you have to have. But it's also, what are your alternatives in that price range? Troy Brown at 3,300 is getting 1/3 the ownership. If you want to use him as a pivot here and there, that's fine. But Wiggins clearly projects better. And you're just going to be able to make such good lineups by using him.
So basically he's a necessary evil, just given the breakdown of the slate.
Yeah. Like if it's one of those where, when you're looking at an individual lineup, if it doesn't have Aaron Wiggins, it's not like it can't be a good lineup. Like, I love the idea of just not having a 30% owned Aaron Wiggins, but realistically across a lot of lineups, I just expect to still be seeing Aaron Wiggins showing up in a lot of the lineups that I play, because there's other spots I can be contrarian. There's better alternatives to some other chalk than there is to Wiggins, where, like, even talking about, for example, Thomas Bryant, who's really, really popular and a very, very, very good play. You can make a very good lineup that just has 2 different centers other than Thomas Bryant. You can make a very good lineup that has 3 different point guards other than Russell Westbrook, even though he's the clear top option there. Whereas with Wiggins, you're kind of having to redo your entire lineup and not use that piece of value, which is going to then also force you to come down from some of the other guys that you wanted to pay up for.
Do you think there's any value in getting to someone like a Kenrich Williams today? 6% optimal, only 1% projected ownership right now.
If he starts, the problem is last game he came off the bench. They went to Jalen Williams, both Jalen Williams in the starting lineup. So you only got 20 minutes from him there. If he starts, you could easily get 26, 28 minutes and he would start to look somewhat interesting. But if he's coming off the bench, I have a really tough time with that. I think that Isaiah Joe at 3,800 is somewhat interesting. He was pulling a lot of ownership this morning, but that has come down as expected. He's likely to play 20 to 22 minutes. He's a point per minute guy. He is shooting guard instead of small forward eligible. So that's one reason that you're seeing so much more ownership go to Aaron Wiggins. But we also have Wiggins projected like 0.6 of a DraftKings point ahead of Isaiah Joe and getting nearly 5 times the ownership. So I think that's one reasonable spot that you could pivot.
Hey, Ben Simmons, TJ Warren, both out.
All right, cool. So we should get Seth Curry starting again, most likely.
Yeah. And Joel Embiid, game time decision.
Yeah, that was obviously coming because Doc Rivers sucks.
Yes, he does. Let's talk about the rest of OKC here. So behind Aaron Wiggins, SGA, Josh Giddey against the Golden State Warriors. They're only, I think, what did I say? They're only 5. Yeah, they're only 5-point dogs, but 242.5 total in this game. So it is a really healthy total. Matter of fact, it's the highest on the slate. Where are you at on just kind of modestly owned, two of these pretty talented guards here against the Warriors?
I absolutely love SGA here. Good matchup, fast-paced game. 9,900 for SGA is very reasonable, given that he's playing 35 to 37 minutes. He's about a 1.4 DraftKings point per minute guy this year. But Josh mentioned it this morning, and I don't think it's really what you would expect at first thought. But without Lou Dort on the floor this year, SGA's played 419 minutes with a 41.7% usage rate, 1.65 DraftKings points per minute. If you put Josh Giddey on the floor and keep Dort off, you still get 1.53 DraftKings points per minute from SGA with a 36.5% usage rate. So
That's
you're seeing
shocking.
Well, it makes sense though, because you don't think of Dort as a high usage guy, and he's not. But he's a higher usage guy than Aaron Wiggins or whoever is going to end up replacing him.
Sure.
So there is more usage to go around. It's a spot where I think that, even if Dort were in, SGA would look good. But with Dort out, it does actually make a difference for SGA, and it certainly makes him look better.
Okay. Would you take SGA at 9,900 over, all of these other guards that are above, like Curry, Lillard, Irving, are all kind of significantly more expensive than he is today?
Yeah, I think it's easier to get the SGA. I think he projects similarly to all of those guys, if not ahead of them. Looking right now at our projections, we have Kyrie projected 3 points ahead of SGA, but we have Dame only by 0.6 of a point and $800 more expensive. We have SGA projected higher than Curry, projected higher than Harden, projected higher than Young and Edwards. I think that SGA is probably, all things considered, and setting Luka aside because he's Luka, my favorite guard option, or my favorite guard in that price range.
Now, not to throw you a curveball here, but there's some people watching this show that might not be able to hang around for the full 2 hours in the event that we get news in Philly. James Harden and SGA are essentially identically priced. What happens to your affinity here for SGA if Joel Embiid ends up sitting?
So the ownership's going to be really, really interesting there, because I think that Harden's projection would move ahead of SGA's, but probably not by that much. We talked about it, that Harden's like a 1.4 DraftKings point per minute guy without Embiid.
Yeah.
That's what SGA is regardless. And he's like 1.5 without Dort. So I think that their projection would end up being very similar. And there's a chance that you would get the ownership really swinging to James Harden, in which case I would love just getting the SGA in tournaments. So the ownership would play a pretty big role there, but I certainly think that the gap between SGA and Harden would close.
All right. Anything else for OKC?
Josh Giddey's always fine, but not any sort of real priority.
All right. Hey, today, last day ever that we're doing the 5-day free trial. So for those of you that drug your feet, or dragging your feet currently, thinking about it, haven't done so yet, life gets in the way. I get it. The last day to take advantage of it. That's all of our NBA stuff. Okay. Ownership. You hear us reference it, the boom bust tool, the projections, everything across the board, player projections, projected stats, ownership, boom bust, you name it, all of that free the entirety of 5 days. And unlike football, you're getting basketball every single day of the week. So it's not like, oh, I did 5 free days. Cool. Now I get 1, maybe 2 slates to mess with. No, you're getting 5 days. And there's some nice size slates coming up, like the 8, 7s, 9s, 6s, kind of that wheelhouse type of spot. Take advantage. Links in the description. Jordan just spam chat with it right there. If you want to get in, 5 free days, entirely free. Last day we're doing this. It's gone after today for good. Was surprised we did this. I just found out, all of us kind of just found out this is the last day of every day for the first 5 free days, entirely free. We want you guys to win. We want you guys to check these tools out. We want you to check out the lineup builder and all of that stuff and hang around afterwards. So check it out. If you hate it, we'll refund your misery of exactly $0. But hopefully you stick around and join the community. 5 free days, totally free. Links in the description and in chat right now. If you're watching us live, Jordan just posted it in there. Last day. All right, let's talk about the Sacramento Kings, Minnesota Timberwolves. Rudy Gobert, Taurean Prince questionable for Minnesota. Kings pretty clean bill of health for the most part, laying 1 point here on the road against Minnesota. Let's start at the top here with Domantas Sabonis. How are we prioritizing players like him today? He's 10-3 on DraftKings. Solid enough spot. Of course, Rudy Gobert's status could change things a little bit there. But are you in agreement with the fact that Sabonis is pulling less than 5% right now?
Yeah, it's similar to some of the other spots we've talked about, whether that's Embiid, whether it's Steph Curry. Very, very obviously a massive ceiling for Domantas Sabonis. If this game's close and he avoids foul trouble, he's typically giving you 37, 38 minutes. He's a very good point per minute guy. The problem is just the amount of value at the center position. Like guys like Precious Achiuwa and Thomas Bryant are half the salary of Domantas Sabonis, and they're going to let you pay up for those point guards that you really want. So it just becomes a situation where as good as he is, he's still a low probability play because of his position. That's why you see him only pulling 7%. A 7% chance of being in the optimal lineup, despite having a projection that is a little bit higher than SGA, and he's only $400 more. It's just the position that he plays makes it so much, really restricts what you can do with the rest of your lineup. So completely understand why he's low owned. It makes him a really interesting large field tournament play if you can get there, because again, he's just one of these guys that's capable of putting up a score where you just have to have him to win, but pretty, unlikely that happens. And it's just tough to pay up at center today. De'Aaron Fox is kind of in a similar situation, not because he's too expensive, but because he's $800 more than Westbrook, who clearly projects better and is going to pull more ownership. And then he's not that far behind the Trae Young, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, James Harden tier, for $1,500 or so more. So you're only seeing 8 to 9% ownership come into De'Aaron Fox, despite it being an appealing game and him having a massive ceiling. Does make him look like a pretty good tournament option as well. Looking at the wings, I think it's really interesting. You have 15% ownership coming into Kevin Huerter. I think a big reason for that is shooting guard, small forward eligibility on DraftKings. So you just have those extra roster spots that you can slide him into. But he's getting 3 times the ownership of Harrison Barnes, who's $200 less expensive. He's getting twice the ownership of Keegan Murray, who's $400 less expensive. They don't have the same sort of positional flexibility, but all of these guys should play similar minutes. On average, you're getting around 32 from Huerter and Murray. You're getting around 34 from Barnes. I think that, where you can, finding a way to pivot from Huerter to Barnes or Murray is one pretty easy way to make a more contrarian team today.
Huerter is one of those guys that 5,400 with that ownership could highly disappoint, or against the Minnesota team. This Minnesota team has really struggled to defend the 3.
I think he's a very good play. It's just that I don't think he's 3 times as good as Barnes or twice as good.
Sure. I mean, listen, dude, he has a sub 20% usage rate, a 13% assist rate, and a 6% rebound rate. Like, there's a lot of ways for plays like that to go wrong as well.
Yeah. 0.9 DraftKings points per minute for Huerter this year, 0.8 for Barnes, 0.75 for Keegan Murray.
Right. So between him and Barnes, it's really not that far separated. How different in price are they? Kevin
$200. We have Barnes projected like 2 points less. So like your optimizers are just going to spit out Kevin Huerter whenever they get to that like price point. But when you start factoring in range of outcomes, I think it's just that Huerter's a good play going a little bit over owned. And this is all reflected in the boom bust tool for anybody that subscribes and can see it. 12.5% optimal percentage for Huerter, 15.5% projected ownership. So the best play of the group, but Harrison Barnes, 7% optimal, 5% ownership. Murray actually only 4% optimal, 7% ownership. So we have him going a little bit over owned as well. But it kind of just reflects that Herter is the best play, just not by the same margin that we're expecting the field to roster him at.
Yeah, speaking of optimal lineup percentage, the highest for Minnesota today on the other side is Rudy Gobert coming in right around 15%, assuming he's out there today. 11.7% ownership right now, 22% boom score. Like, the numbers don't look bad. He's $6,600. The price continues to stay pretty low on Rudy Gobert. It's likely that he continues to piss people off as well. Do you go back to the well with old Rudy here?
Yeah, it's still just a pretty appealing price tag on him at 6,600. He disappointed on the front end of the back-to-back the other day where he only played 31 minutes. But outside of that, you've been getting 34 or 35 minutes from him per game since returning from his injury. He's now played 24 total games this year without Karl Anthony Towns. He's averaged 1.08 DraftKings points per minute. He's going up against a Sacramento team that is very good at offense and very not good at defense. Yeah, he'd be pulling a ton more ownership here if Thomas Bryant and Precious Achiuwa didn't exist. Gobert would be one of the most obvious plays on the board, but because they do exist and they are a lot less expensive, you're getting him at somewhat of an ownership discount, only pulling 11.5%, about a 15% chance of being optimal. So I do like him in tournaments. You can get to him instead of like a Thomas Bryant or a Precious Achiuwa without completely having to sacrifice your, the optimal roster construction. Paying up there, you can kind of pay down a little bit somewhere else and you should be fine. It's not like, you have to redo everything like you would if you go up to like a Sabonis or an Embiid. So I do like him. D'Angelo Russell's been playing huge minutes recently and playing well. Anthony Edwards is playing out of his mind. Shooting guard, small forward eligible at 9,400. All three of those guys just look like very, very good options. Kyle Anderson is another reasonable pivot away from like a Kevin Herter. He's $300 more expensive. If he avoids foul trouble, you should get 30 to 32 minutes. He's not a high usage guy, but he does enough in the way of rebounding, playmaking, and he's an efficient scorer, so he doesn't need all the usage. I like him at 5% owned in large field tournaments.
All right, 4 down, 4 to go. I had to speed this one up a little bit, but we've done this before. And hey, appreciate all. We got almost 2,500 people watching with us. Appreciate you guys. 142 likes from 500. We will make quick work of that. I trust that there are 142 people out there who, Adam, have you hit the thumbs up yet?
I have.
You have? Look at that. If Adam's out here putting in the legwork, I mean, there's just no excuses. All right, Washington at San Antonio. Let's get into this one. Washington laying 5.5 against just a terrible defensive, terrible team in San Antonio. 241.5 total here. Washington not long ago wasn't all that healthy. Now they're for the most part, this team is pretty healthy at this point. Outside of Daniel Gafford, who midday was downgraded to questionable, I suppose that could get interesting. But outside of that, not the most intriguing team, even though they're in a great spot.
Yeah, Gafford, if he plays, is one of the more interesting pivots away from the Thomas Bryant or Precious Achiuwa ownership. Those guys project better, but Gafford is similarly priced, and the type of upside that he has. You do have Kristaps Porzingis returning today, though, so I'm assuming that if Gafford plays, he remains in the starting lineup alongside Porzingis. That's what we were seeing prior to the injury, but he's going to project behind those other guys. That's why he's only getting 9 to 10% ownership. But from a range of outcome standpoint, he's not 3 times less likely to, like Achiuwa and Bryant probably shouldn't be getting 3 times the ownership Gafford is, but they should be getting more for sure. Bradley Beal at 7,200, somewhat interesting just because of the price tag. Maybe we see him get back to 34 minutes or so today. We saw 32 minutes last game after he had played 30 on both ends of a back-to-back previously. He's been good from an offensive standpoint this year, not as much usage as in the past, so that's knocked down his fantasy production a bit, but still 62% true shooting this year on 27% usage, about a 25% assist percentage. He's still not a bad point per minute guy. 7,200 is a reasonable price. It's just that he is only shooting guard eligible. So you're restricted to, where you can roster him at. And there's a lot of just guards that are going to look a little bit better than him. Benny Avdia pulling 10% ownership. No problem with that, but not, excited to get there or anything. Kuzma's priced up. I don't know how many minutes Porzingis plays in his return. He's 9,100. He does have power forward eligibility, which is nice, but I think it's still going to be tough to get there. I don't think there's any real priorities from this team. I would think Avdia, Gafford, if he plays, and Beal are the guys you're getting to first.
Sometimes late at night, Adam will DM us stuff that's not where I'm going. Don't worry. Sometimes he'll DM us stuff from like just random Twitter accounts, and it'll get him fired up when people say stuff. And one of them the other day, I believe, was that people saying Bradley Beal wasn't good anymore. And that grinded your gears, man.
No, it actually surprised. So I didn't have any idea how he had been this year. And when I saw that tweet, I was like, is he actually bad? And so I looked and was like, yeah, he's not bad at all. But like he was better than I thought he had been, because like I view everything through a DFS lens, and I haven't played him a lot this year, and he hasn't been a great DFS option. But like from an actual basketball standpoint, at least offensively, he's been a lot better than I realized.
Yeah. Yeah, that was one of your more innocuous type comments.
Yeah.
Sometimes it'll be something you'll send something and I'll be like, oh, what's this? But I see it's like from a random guy with 15 followers that has, and I'm not shitting on that. I'm just saying, like, yeah, it's 5 people have seen this tweet and I'm one of them and Stratford's one of them. And you're like, look at this idiot. That happens not often, but once in a while that we'll come across a few of those. It excites me. All right, San Antonio, though, flip to the other side of this game. Talking about the Spurs, Romeo Langford out. That's basically the only significant news we have here. I'll give you anybody that's out. I'll let you know. At Jeremy Sohan's price, are you still getting there at the 5K range?
Yeah, I mean, it's fine. He should play low 30s in minutes. 19% ownership just goes to show how valuable getting to these 5K forwards is. It's another situation, though, where why is he getting 18 to 19% ownership when Harrison Barnes is getting 5? I'm not entirely sure. I think that, again, Sohan's the better option. He projects a little bit better, but it's not by a lot. And that's just another way that you can get different. I really like trying to, and this has been the case on a lot of slates recently, just kind of trying to pivot off some of the more popular 5 to 6K range forwards that everybody's getting to out of necessity and just go to lower owned ones that have very similar range of outcomes. But Sohan does look good. He has a 13% chance of being optimal.
Anybody outside of Jeremy Sohan? Zach Collins always seems to get some love, at least from an ownership standpoint. I haven't pulled him up in the boom bust tool yet, but my
12% ownership, 9% chance of being optimal.
Yeah, okay,
he's still just a little too cheap at 4K, but it's the same problem that we sort of had with him in general. On average, he's playing 18 to 20 minutes behind Pirtle. That gets him, a projection around 22, 23 DraftKings points, which is good at 4K, but you really need Pirtle foul trouble or injury or something to get that true ceiling game from Zach Collins. And there's so many good center plays today that it's just unlikely that getting 24, 25 DraftKings points gets it done, even at the cheap price tag. It's likely there's just going to be ways you can make a better lineup than going that route. So that's the concern for me. I do like Jakob Poeltl a lot in tournaments. He's only pulling 6% ownership, 8% chance of being optimal, only $5,800. And this is somebody that's approaching 1.3 DraftKings points per minute without Devin Vassell on the floor. The issue's been his playing time recently, whether it's foul trouble, blowouts, random rotations. But on average, he's playing around 25, 26 minutes. We saw him play 28 or so in regulation last game. If you get that game from him, there's a very, very high ceiling. And he's in that similar price range to guys like Bryant and Achua and just pulling a fraction of the ownership.
Jordan, can you pull up No House Advantage for me for a second? See where we're at in I know. Oh, yesterday. Yeah, I know. I belabor the point often about the overlay and why it's worth taking advantage of. What did Alex 15K yesterday plus another one in the top 5 or something? Yeah. Yes. 15,000. I think he tied for second or something. And then had another, what's that? Okay. There you go. Just monster win over there. Dude, the overlay is pretty insane when you think about it. And it's not just that, like you use the link in the description, you're getting the first match deposit bonus up to $100. This, and this should be a testament to all of this as well. The tools, the tools that he was using to create those lineups are the ones that he built that are free over at Stokastic as well. I mean, clearly. So the tools are free. They will always be free for No House Advantage. At least I assume they will be. At least they are right now. And I've been told nothing to the contrary. And you're getting $100 first match deposit bonus. You're getting overlay. It's 160 out of 12,000 right now. We have one out of 1,200, sorry, $10 entry, 5K up top. It's 13% filled with 1 hour and 14 minutes to go until lock. You're just building lineups with player props. There's no juice. The ones you like the most go at the top. There's no salary. They get the most points. The ones you like the least go at the bottom. They get the fewest. there's no learning curve here either. Like all of the info that you take from this show and that you've researched throughout the day, strategy show, all of our tools, the free No House Advantage tools, just makes it way easier to build these lineups and seriously be able to take advantage of that. Also, I will point out to you guys that they've pushed the lock back to 7:30 today. So there's no Orlando Philly game. Kind of who cares, right? You still have 7. So now if you sign up, even if you finish your lineups, you still have 30 minutes to put some lineups in at No House Advantage. So check it out. Sponsor of the Deeper Dive. Overlays massive over there. First match deposit up to $100, and all of the tools built by Alex Baker, Awesemo himself, free under the NBA drop down over at Stokastic.com. All right, Adam, talk to me about the Detroit Pistons here. Here's another team that's just healthy, right? Hamidou Diallo is out, so there's that. But they're 8.5-point dogs against the Dallas Mavericks today. Is there any, and we can talk about Alec Burks, but I'm thinking beyond him, are there any tournament pieces that kind of stand out to you as maybe nobody's seeing them?
No, I think, well, so we do need the starting lineup here. One thing that I think, there's two things that you're paying attention to. One is Alec Burks and Killian Hayes. Assuming Burks starts, he looks good at 4,900. He played 27 minutes last game. He had played, I think, north of 30 the game before that. So he's pulling 18% ownership, point guard, shooting guard eligible, probably going a little bit over-owned. But if he starts, that's still a very reasonable price tag. If he moves back to the bench, I'm not interested in that. I would certainly be interested in a $5,500 Killian Hayes if he starts. The other thing you're paying attention to is Sadiq Bey and Isaiah Stewart. I'm assuming that Bey remains in the starting lineup. If he does, I'm not particularly interested in him at 5,800. I'm not particularly interested in Stewart at 4,900. But the other piece that gets hurt by that is Jalen Duren, who at 5,500 does give you a nice ceiling. But if you're using Isaiah Stewart strictly as the backup center, it's likely you continue to see rotations similar to what we did last game, where him and Duren both played 24 minutes, and it makes them both just not look very good. Whereas if Isaiah Stewart starts, not only is that good for Isaiah Stewart's minutes, it makes it likely that you're getting back to around 30 minutes from Jalen Duren as well, since they're playing Stewart alongside him. So that's a really, really big piece to pay attention to. But assuming that we get the same starting lineup that we have in recent games, I think it's pretty much Alec Burks looks like a good value option. Bogdanovich and Jaden Ivey at 6,600 each are perfectly fine in tournaments, but also there's a million guys that look like them. And beyond that, I don't have much interest in anything.
Do you have interest in Dallas if Luka? Okay, so if Luka's out, that, I mean, my God, that changes a lot here. But if he's in, like, how comfortable are you with a 25% Dorian Finney-Smith? How much do you want to get to a $12,700 Luka Doncic today?
I want to get to Luka badly if he's in. It's just, he projects so much better than everybody on the slate, and you have enough value to do it. You have the Aaron Wiggins piece, but you also just have all of those like 5K centers that you can get to. I think that the toughest part is going to be getting to Luka and then figuring out where to pivot, because a lot of the Luka roster construction is just going to look so similar because of his price tag. But I do think there's enough guys, in that 5K range that you can kind of mix and match, that you're going to be able to build good lineups with Luka in them. Dorian Finney-Smith, I don't totally get the ownership here. He's playing big minutes. We know that Christian Wood is still out. If Luka is in, though, Finney-Smith's production still is, leaves a lot to be desired, because Luka just does so much when he's on the floor. So getting to a 25% owned Finney-Smith seems pretty unappealing. I think that's one spot where pivoting to some of these other, 5K-ish players looks good. With Doncic on the floor this year, 0.64 DraftKings points per minute for Dorian Finney-Smith. If you take Christian Wood off and leave Luka on, you would expect that production probably to go up a little bit. It's taking a while to load, but I wouldn't expect it to go up a lot just because Luka is doing everything. If Luka is out, then Finney-Smith makes sense, because you're just getting some level of increased production from him. But assuming Luka's in, I don't totally get the 25% ownership to Finney-Smith.
If Luka's out, right, Spencer Dinwiddie, 1.25 fantasy points per minute with Luka off the floor this year, 0.8 with Luka on the massive discrepancy in production. No surprises there, right? But Dinwiddie's price went from, you got to love this, and it's not even unreasonable, but he'll be unowned today if Luka plays at his salary. But he's not $8,500. It was $6,400 the day Luka only played 3 minutes, then $7,400 the next game, played 42 minutes and 40 before that. If Luka's out, Dinwiddie is still like the go-to guy on this team, hands down. And you guys know Christian Wood either, right? So like how much of 8,500 Dinwiddie do we look towards, even though his price has been jacked up considerably?
Yeah, I mean, if Luka's out, he still is going to look like a good option. The thing that you have to keep in mind is if Luka's out, one, it opens up more value. Like Dorian Finney-Smith does start to look better. Josh Green starts to look better. You're still going to have Russell Westbrook for $1,000 less than Dinwiddie, and you're still going to have SGA and Harden and Kyrie to pay up for. So I think it's still going to kind of make it so you get Dinwiddie around 15% owned, something like that. If Luka's out, he's going to be a good play, but still probably not the best play just because of Westbrook being the guy in the mid range. But without Wood or Doncic on the floor, 1.31 DraftKings points per minute in 236 minutes for Dinwiddie, 34.5% usage rate, 45% assist percentage, very, very similar rates to Russell Westbrook when he plays without LeBron or Davis. It's just that you are paying more for Dinwiddie. So if Luka's out, he still looks like a very good play. If Luka's in, I have absolutely no interest in Dinwiddie at all at 8,500. Josh Green looks fine if Luka's in, certainly looks better if he's out. He's at 0.74 DraftKings points per minute without Luka or Wood on the floor. Finney-Smith goes from 0.64 to 0.79 DraftKings points per minute. That ownership makes a lot more sense if Luka's out than it does if Luka's in. Hardaway, we know, could see more opportunities as well. Dwight Powell in tournaments is kind of interesting. Only played about 22 or 23 minutes last game, but we've seen plenty of games recently where he does play well and tops 30 minutes. He's about a fantasy point per minute guy. So at 4,100, getting a lot less ownership than Thomas Bryant and Precious Achiuwa, I think he makes some sense in tournaments just because if you get that 30-plus minute game, it probably means he's playing well and doing well from a fantasy standpoint.
Okay. We got 2 games to go, and then we're turning this one over to the live before a lock crew. They're taking you up till 7 and through that little post lock action. Stick around with them. No house advantage. If you signed up, they'll be talking about a lot of that, getting into some props too. Probably looking at NBA Bet Pro as well, which your first week is. Throw that link in, Jordan. It's the same guys that make all of our projections over at Stokastic. Alex Baker, Sean Zahn, Steve Buzzard, the Colts, the guys that, are crushing constantly in DFS, but also betting. The tool's been through the roof insane lately, and the first week is entirely free. So if you're into prop betting, particularly for the NBA, NBA Bet Pro, no better way to do it. Also, the price is going up. If you do it today, you're grandfathered in to the original price. So check it out. First week free. But it's been crushing for sure. Greg and Eric coming up after this, by the way, on Live Before Lock. Let's talk about Toronto. Very, very curious to pick your brain here a little bit on Precious Achiuwa. So no OG Anunoby. Achiuwa's been playing some considerable minutes. He's getting it, and rightfully, a good amount of ownership. Now he's $6,100 on FanDuel. On DraftKings, center only eligible, but $5,100. Nick Nurse has had no problem throwing him into the fire, giving him plenty of minutes here. And if you get another 33, 35 minutes from Precious Achiuwa, I know he's playing alongside the starters who also play a ton of minutes, but the dude's a fucking double machine.
Yeah. Overall this season, 548 minutes played, 1.01 DraftKings points per minute. In the 3 games he has started this year with Pascal Siakam active, he's produced 1.2 DraftKings points per minute in 35.5 minutes per game. I don't think you expect that level of production to continue, but even, overall this season with Pascal Siakam on the floor, Achiuwa's at 0.93 DraftKings points per minute, has nearly an 18% rebounding percentage, 18.5% usage rate. He's just still mispriced. Being center only on DraftKings, the opportunity cost obviously is there. Like, you just can't afford to get a mediocre game from him, but he projects for 6 times his salary. The upside is certainly there. Pulling 28.5% ownership, I have no issue with that. Obviously a little bit more difficult to get to on FanDuel, but he does have power forward eligibility, so that helps to make up for the increased salary. And as a result, he's still pulling 28% ownership there, which I think does make sense given that you can roster him at power forward as well. So he looks like the clear priority from Toronto. Beyond that, Siakam, very difficult to get to on DraftKings, similar to Sabonis, where, I love the idea of getting a low-owned Siakam. It's just, what are you giving up to do it? And it becomes really, really difficult because he's center only. On FanDuel, he has power forward eligibility at 9,500. Still not pulling much ownership. A little bit more interesting to me there just because of the power forward eligibility. Fred VanVleet at 8K is a reasonable pivot away from, Westbrook, or he's getting similar ownership to De'Aaron Fox. But I think clearly in that second or third tier of guard options, just given how well Westbrook projects with James and Davis out. Barnes, Trent, all or both, reasonable options here and there, but they're both correctly priced. The only thing that stands out in terms of salary to me is Precious Achiuwa.
Yeah, he's the clear priority here. There's no question. Just super cheap, big minutes. And I don't know, you and I say it all the time. Like when you're getting cheap centers that play a lot of minutes that also actually produce at a +1 per minute rate, I'm not really sure how you get away from something like that. Now on the Phoenix side of things, still no Booker, still no Cameron Payne. Him and Landry Shamet have no timetable for a turn. We just got that report. But most of these prices, Adam, have already balanced themselves out to account for these absences in the backcourt.
Yeah, I do still like Chris Paul quite a bit. It's really interesting that he's only pulling 11% ownership here. It just speaks to how good the chalk projects to be on this slate, because an $8,200 Chris Paul is very appealing, given that, we got about 34, 35 minutes in regulation last game. We'd seen 38, 39 minutes in previous games, and he's playing really well since returning also. So I think it's likely that Phoenix actually did a good job of holding him out until he was 100%. And now you're just getting Chris Paul playing really, really good basketball and putting up really big fantasy numbers, but he's still only pulling 10 to 11% ownership, because it's just that situation where, like, you can say, oh, I love Chris Paul, but then you have to say who you're not playing of, Kyrie or Gilgeous-Alexander or Russell Westbrook or, any number of other guys. So it is a spot that I think is interesting in tournaments, just because he's a very, very good play. He's just not one of the top plays on the slate. So it's knocking his ownership down a bit. DeAndre Ayton is similar, gives you a very high ceiling. You have, Chris Paul getting him the ball, which is always good. Usage rate goes up without Devin Booker, only pulling 8% ownership because of the position that he's at. Cameron Johnson pulling 5% ownership. He's a reasonable pivot away from like Kevin Huerter, for example, for $300 more. So all three of those guys look good to me. Then you get to Bridges and Craig, who are barely pulling any ownership. Bridges is going to play a lot of minutes. He's 6,900, not overly excited there. Torrey Craig should play around 28 minutes. He's 4,100, so there's some case to be made for using him as a low owned value play, but it's still Torrey Craig, and that's not the most exciting thing.
All right, let's wrap it up. Atlanta. What's all this duck talk? Jordan, what is this duck talk in chat? Can you fill me in on that? Oh, gotcha. Speaking of aquatic animals, I was watching a video today on the shoebill stork. How about that? Look that fucker up. You ever see those?
No, I can't say that I have.
Yeah, it's called the Balanoceps rex or Rex. Damn right. Thing is a dinosaur. It's a dinosaur. Look up the shoebill stork. This thing's wild.
It looks like a pelican.
No, you guys see it from front on. He's got.
Yeah, no, I see it. It looks like something from, like, I don't know, Power Rangers.
It's a dinosaur. It is a dinosaur that's roaming the earth among us, but we don't have time for that. Let's talk about, you got to pull up a big image, Jordan, get people stoked on the shoebill stork.
If you just type in shoebill stork in Google, it comes up with one where it's just like staring you down. And
yes, with the huge beak looking right at you. Yeah. It's a dinosaur. Thing's insane. Prehistoric shit right in front of us. All right, let's wrap it up with Atlanta and Portland. Before we do, one last thing, guys. The BetMGM, if you're in a state where you can legally gamble and you want to get a free month of everything we have on the site, not just for basketball, literally every single sport. So you're like, oh shit. So when basketball's not happening during the All-Star break, I get to learn hockey and everything else, and PGA, you're damn right you do, because at BetMGM, this is it. Pay attention. You need $10 and 2 minutes. The 2 minutes is so you can sign up. The $10 is so you can use the link in the description or in chat. You take that $10, you put it on any bet. Okay. Whatever it is out there. If you lose, it doesn't matter. You still get the free month of Stokastic plus Platinum. And if you want to get Fantasy Cruncher add-on, you can do that as well. But every single tool on our site that is ours is yours for the entire calendar month, including the Discord. And if you win, you get paid out. You still get the month. The best part is if you lose, first bet insurance up to $1,000. So whether it's 10, 50, 100, 1,000, doesn't matter. BetMGM, you get everything back in bonus bets if you lose that first bet. If you win, you win. You build a bankroll. If you lose, you get it all back in bonus bets. So free month of Stokastic plus Platinum and first bet insurance up to $1,000. You need find the $10 laying somewhere around the house and tell the wife, hey, listen, I need 2 minutes. Okay. I know I just built lineups for 3 hours, but I need 2 more minutes. because I'm trying to get a free month of Stokastic. I'm trying to get up in the Hall of Fame segment and have Laffy induct me once a week. Yeah, that's all you got to do. 2 minutes of your time, $10, get the free month, all of that good stuff. And first bet insurance up to $1,000. Most states you must be 21 or older to gamble. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, please call or text. You can text 1-800-GAMBLER. They make it easy. So call. Just do so if you have a problem. If you don't, well, you're good. Lose the number. Okay, let's talk about Atlanta and Portland. They're going to fucking hate me. Atlanta or Portland and Portland. Sorry. Talk to me. We're up against it, Adam. But what do you want to do with the Atlanta Hawks here, starting with the big boys up top at the guard positions?
Yeah, so I mean, you have Trae Young questionable. Unfortunately, this is the last game of the night, so we may or may not have that news, at a reasonable hour. But if Trae Young is out, it just makes everybody look better. DeJounte Murray becomes another top-tier guard option. Bogdanovich, Collins, Hunter would all look better as well. But assuming that Trae Young is in, there's not a ton that looks like a priority here. $7,900 DeJounte Murray is a little bit cheap for the minutes that he plays, but there's just so many good guard options today. I'm kind of surprised he's pulling more ownership than guys like, CP3 or De'Aaron Fox at similar prices. I understand that, they have their only point guards instead of point guard shooting guard, but that's kind of surprising to me. Capella at 6K, just another center where, he's getting a lot less ownership than Achua or Bryant for a little bit less. The upside he offers is nice, but, he's also just not a true priority here. Trae Young himself, obviously a high upside tournament play, but I also just prefer getting to SGA or James Harden. So more of a, just a contrarian play here and there. There's nothing that really stands out to me from Atlanta if Trae Young is in.
Okay. And what about on the other side with Portland? We talked about Lillard a little bit earlier, just in that same range as, Irving, and a little bit more expensive than the Hardens and the SGAs. What do we do with him? And of course, Josh Hart's questionable too. I should point that out. But actually start and finish wherever you want, because we're at 6:03 and we got to flip the page here.
Yeah, Hart and Nurkic both questionable. If Hart's out, you should get Nas Little starting, which gives you another value option, same price tag as Aaron Wiggins. But again, this is the last game, so it would be pretty risky to try and make that pivot if we don't have news on Hart. Certainly could work out, though, getting him at a huge ownership discount. Similarly, Drew Eubanks should start at 3,600 if Nurkic is out. That would make him look like a good value. He played 22 minutes last game and Watford played 26, but I think if Nurkic is out, it's more likely you get those numbers flipped here. Outside of that, though, Simons and Grant both pulling ownership, and I think they should. They're both just too cheap. Their playing time looks even better if Hart were to sit, but you're still typically getting 35, 36 minutes from both of those guys at 6,100 for Simons and 6,300 for Grant. Dame is great if you can get there, but again, I'm just going to be getting to Kyrie first. I'm going to be getting to SGA first, probably getting to Harden first. It just makes it tough, but we know the type of upside that Dame gives you, and he's playing out of his mind right now.
All right. Hey, you guys are the best. Crushed 500 likes. As always, a pleasure. Shout out to Jordan Klein for producing this one. Follow Adam at Ship My Money DFS. Just don't tweet anything that he may find suspect, because I'll be hearing about it. Follow me at Laffy_D, LOUGHY_D. Of course, Greg and Eric coming up next and taking you through lock. Stick around for the whole thing. We'll catch you back here tomorrow on the Deeper Dive. Peace.
Pete McCarthy for Odds Shopper as we look to take on the house at No House Advantage on this NBA Monday. 8 games in all to be playing with here. And if you're not familiar with No House Advantage, you get for 20 times your entry fee if you're able to hit 5 out of 5. Give us a like, subscribe, keep up with all of our shows, our DFS offers, our giveaways. We're also available in podcast form, so you can take us on the go. Check that out on your platform of choice. So, what are we looking at tonight if we are going to play versus the house and No House Advantage? Well, first of all, I recommend you go to Stokastic.com. NBA, free tools and data, No House Advantage. Boom. You can check out exactly what they have up at versus the house for No House Advantage and our projections, along with the percentage chance that they're going to hit either the over or the under. Makes it super simple for you. It changes throughout the day as playing time could change for someone if their teammate is out, let's say, or obviously the lines change over the course of the day as well. So certainly stay locked into that. Now, as of this morning, I don't see a ton that I love here, but we're going to try to get a little cute with it because we want to try to hit 5 out of 5, right? And get that 21 times your entry fee. That's really the prize at No House Advantage, what we're trying to take advantage of, trying to get our hands on. So how do we do that if, say, none of the percentages look all that great, right? Typically, I tell you, we want to be at 60% and above on these because, look, you got to hit at 55% and above if you're going to make money playing versus the house and No House Advantage with the 5 out of 5. So how are we looking to get there if we have the highest one I see this morning is at 57%? Well, I think we got to correlate that, and that's how we'll try to work around this. So let's look at the Toronto Raptors, right? Scotty Barnes, 16.5 points, for instance. Now, Toronto's playing Phoenix tonight. This is by far the lowest over-under of the night. Of the 8 games we have on this NBA slate, it's all the way down at 220.5 points. So, Scotty Barnes, we're looking at 16.5 points. Our projections have him at 15.5 points. Is it a monster?
Eric was not happy with the amount of emojis you sent him.
Yeah, that's what it
Gotta
was.
keep that in mind. Every 6 emoji minimum. Just to be his friend.
I'm so sad.
What is happening, everybody? Welcome to the Stokastic NBA Live Before Lock Show. If you guys haven't liked the video and subscribed to the YouTube channel yet, you should do that now. It helps us out a whole bunch. It is free for you. It just takes a couple clicks of the button. And then you guys are subscribed to the YouTube channel. It helps us grow. And also shout out to No House Advantage, who is sponsoring the show today. There's always overlay over there. We'll be talking about that a little bit more as we go. But even more importantly, shit ton of injuries for Eric and I to break down today. And one more thing too, before we start. This is Eric is banned from Twitter. This is not a joke. Eric did get banned from Twitter. I tweeted this out before. If you guys take like a couple minutes to just file a complaint with Twitter and just say like, hey, this tweet, he got banned. He shouldn't have been banned. And Eric hasn't heard back from support. Maybe that'll help. Maybe it won't. But it seems like the least we could do to help out our friend here who puts out a lot of free content. Eric, how was your weekend?
That was the most earnest thing you've ever said to me to start off a show. Are we sure? I want a couple of things to be known. 1, Greg is not being kidnapped by somebody of my choosing. 2, he chose to tweet that out and to say nice things on me on his own accord, which is just shocking to everybody involved. And 3, yeah, hit up at Twitter support. I haven't gotten a response. It's now been 2 weeks. I've been banned from Twitter for 2 weeks since January 16th, 2 weeks ago, and I've heard zero. I filed a claim. I did an appeal. I've sent something every single day because God knows Twitter, kind of an important thing when you're in this space, not just, to be able to communicate with fellow subs and everything else, but just to get news, to be active. I have Twitter lists. I have things that I've created and spent a lot of time over 15 years. 15 years I've had this Twitter account, 14 years, whatever it is. But like, I don't even know what to do with myself sometimes. I feel like I'm coming in blind with certain things, and it's just absolutely absurd. Somebody has to know Elon Musk in the chat, right? Totally. We have that kind of a demographic. So hit up Elon, let him know that I am not a nuisance to society, no matter how many times I say the word nuke.
Yeah, and more importantly, it was explained to me recently how if all of us grew our Twitter followings, how we could all make more money here. So that's why we really need to get Eric back on Twitter. Do it for myself. Do it for Jordan. You don't have to do it for Eric. Do it for me. Do it for Jordan. Do it for the other people you like who work here. It doesn't have to be Eric in particular, in case people were wondering what my real motive is here. But we've also got a basketball slate to talk about. Are we on board now, Eric?
I just imagine Twitter right now, their support is just 2 guys being like, yeah, no, I'm not going to do anything now. Like, I just can't imagine things are going that well over at twitter.com.
Yeah, well, I'm sure it's not a publicly traded company anymore. I was going to say, I would be interested to see what the stock price has done since you were banned. It would have been a really funny thing to look at, but unfortunately, we're not going to be able to access that information. Also, like, we can't really access who's playing in the NBA tonight because these injury reports.
I see what you did.
These injury reports are something else. And I mean, just in terms of the most important names, Luka is questionable. Joel Embiid is questionable. Trae Young is questionable. And then we've got a handful of other dudes who are on the injury report that are going to be less significant, but still there's a lot to break down when it comes to these injuries. Cause then, we still got Rudy Gobert questionable. I tend to think that's fake. Josh Hart is questionable. That's real. Daniel Gafford, he's questionable. But what are you doing with the big names on the injury report, Eric? And different start times too. Embiid's in the in an early start time. But then we got Luka towards the tail end of the slate, and then Trae Young also playing late. So just a quick recap or overview. What are you doing with these injuries?
Yeah, so what's interesting is we have the Lakers. That's a pretty clear-cut spot. A lot of the most popular plays on the slate exist there, but you have a point guard, you have a center, Russell Westbrook, Thomas Bryant. I think those are going to be two guys that are certainly in my lineups. I can't imagine that the way you and I play DFS that they're not going to be in yours too, but I do feel okay backloading some of my lineups to try to get to some of that news. You have Precious sitting there in the Toronto game. You have Chris Paul, who I think is coming in very underowned on the Phoenix side of that one. If I can load up to some of those pieces, I have access to maybe be able to react to Portland if that news comes out before the Toronto Phoenix game, to be able to react to Luka Doncic being out. And I will say some of the Dallas prices aren't as appealing as what they've been before, but at the same time, it's Luka Doncic where, I would have no interest as opposed to a ton of interest. So you just have these spots that are pretty clear cut. We'll find out about Joel Embiid while we're on this show because, Glenn Rivers loves to give us that news right away. So that won't be a problem, I'm sure. But otherwise, I feel all right trying to backload a little bit towards that Toronto Phoenix game. And hopefully I can make some decisions about the game in front of it and the game behind it right around then.
Yeah. And like you said, the Joel Embiid news, we're almost certainly, well, not almost certainly, we are going to get that news during the show. All right. Because if you look at the start times of the games, we've got the Philadelphia-Orlando game, first game to tip off the entire slate. Tips off 48 minutes from now. So it is something we're going to have to, figure out once we get there. I do tend to think that Embiid is more likely to sit than play. Now, with that said, I felt that about a bunch of spots lately. And then Joel Embiid just stays questionable, gets ruled in like 10 minutes before the slate starts. But eventually they're going to sit him in one of these spots. He's had a pretty big workload as of late. The Sixers are the biggest favorites on the entire slate at home against the Orlando Magic. It would make sense to sit him here at least.
Yeah, it would. And that's where I'm a little bit confused what they're doing. I mean, he looked awesome on Saturday. He played 38 minutes. So I think, just the minutes allotment that he had going up against Jokic made me a little bit more optimistic. I'm more on like the 60-40 side that he does play in this one. It sounds like you might be just on the opposite end of that. But they play Orlando on a home back-to-back. They play Orlando twice here. So you don't probably need him for both. They only have 3 games this week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So just looking ahead to the schedule, they have Orlando, San Antonio. So it's like, yeah, you would think Orlando would be the spot to do it, but they literally play Orlando again in 2 days and San Antonio on Friday in San Anton before they go on a little bit of a road trip back to New York, then Boston, and then home for New York on the 10th. But I was thinking the same thing you were, but I lean towards him being in simply because it's like, well, maybe you rest him Wednesday, maybe you rest him Friday, San Antonio. Like there's a lot of easy games, really easy stretch of the schedule here until things ramp up next week for them.
Speaking, because you said San Antonio, do you know about the Charles Barkley?
That's
San
why
Antonio?
I said it. Yes.
Yeah,
the big old
hilarious.
girls. Yeah.
Which I also like too, so if you guys didn't know, Charles Barkley is an ongoing bit about how fat the women are in San Antonio. But it's San Antonio. When they told him that he's not allowed to talk about it anymore, else he get fired. He comes on the air and says, "Hey, just so you know, they've let me know at my place of work that I can't talk about how fat the women are in San Antonio anymore, else they're going to fire me." Which is
Charles Barkley is one of the best things on TV. It just is. It is. He actually played a charity golf tournament growing up a lot. I got to spend some time with him when I was a kid. He would play, and Chris Cheddar is her name. She was on the LPGA, but she would do a fundraiser for like the YMCA and a bunch of stuff at my home golf club in South Dakota in Sioux Falls. Minnehaha Country Club is the name of it. And Charles Barkley, Mike Miller, Vince Gill, like it was always the same group of people every single year. And so you kind of like repeatedly got it going, but he loved this spot called Taco John's. It is like Taco Bell knockoff in South Dakota. It is every bit as potent and ridiculous as what it sounds like. But Taco John's have potato olays. They have these ridiculous things. And he would just come with like this whole case of it and down it before playing horrendous golf for 2 days. It was great stuff.
Yeah. And per Charles Barkley is nothing but love for his larger fans, but he will no longer be mocking the big old woman down in San Antonio on television.
People do know Taco John's here. 6-pack and a pound. Look at this. This is beautiful stuff. I'm going back to South Dakota this weekend. I'm going to have to hit up some Taco John's, get myself a potato, some potato olays, and a apple grande is the dessert thing they have there. It's just horrendous for you.
And we've got some super chats right here to help you pay for some of those meals. A lot of super chats coming in right now. If you guys have questions in Discord, add us in there and as well. And by the way, Discord, one of the perks you have of having a Stokastic Plus Platinum membership, and you guys are running out of time to take advantage of our free sign-up offer. So that is going away tonight. So if you guys have wanted to try out our tools for free, this is actually going to be your last opportunity to run the 5-day free trial because we're going to be ending it after today. But if you guys want to check it out, link below. Also, link is going to be thrown into the YouTube comments. Final day to take advantage. Actually, final 5.5 hours to take advantage of our 5-day free sign-up offer. Some super chats now. First, Noah Levinson. You could say you nuked your Twitter account, Eric.
I never have anything to say to this. It just makes me so sad. I'm going to nuke some hungover Taco Bell on Sunday morning before I get on my flight. That's what I'm going to do.
Are you going to be more careful about some of the verbiage and words you use on Twitter if and when you're allowed back?
Yes, Greg, I promise I will never, ever use terrible vernacular like the word nuke, which obviously has such a negative connotation to it.
Yeah, agreed. And I promise I will never die.
I'm glad you
Cloud,
did it.
Cloud, yeah. Cloud LLC. Moses can part season help you ship tourneys. Who would have thought? Thanks to the Weekend Stokastic crew, Josh, for seeing the Moses Brown call. There we go. So a shout out. Josh isn't here. Wasn't on this show. Wasn't on the show either. But Cloud, congrats on your hit. And shout out to Josh. I will message him to make sure he knows that he left that super chat.
Love it.
East of Spade, Poole or Barnes for a DK tiers?
Neither.
What's tiers?
I know there's got to be more than 2 people in the tier section on an 8-game slate.
All right. So let's look at which tier that is. I'm going to pull this up right now.
Oh, neither.
I hope the answer is one of them for you now. Watch it be the other answers are like Austin Reeves, who isn't playing, and it's just other trash. All right, I'm pulling up the tiers on my phone right now. So I know it's not going to be tier 1, probably not tier 2, not tier 4. Is this tier 6? Okay, so here are the options he has. Paulo Banchero, Bradley Beal, Scotty Barnes, D'Angelo Russell, Keldon Johnson, Jordan Poole, Mikal Bridges, Ben Simmons. He's out.
Well, we just got some fun news. And I will say Bradley Beal's one of my favorite tournament plays on today's slate. So we're going to go Bradley Beal.
Let me see. I have to look at my projection.
Got him projected for 37 compared to Scotty Barnes, 36. And then whoever the first guy I found on tiers, the first person listed is almost always the highest owned because it goes in order of fantasy points. And so I've started to dabble in the tiers because we've had more questions about this than anything. So over the weekends, I've been doing some of that because I can't really do it during the week. I can't manage enough things, but I've found whoever is the first person listed is almost always the most popular. So I skipped that. I heard Bradley Beal was like 3rd in that list. I'm obsessed with him for tournaments today.
Yeah, Beal is 2nd. It is Banchero who is 1st. In terms of who I have projected the highest, though, out of that group, it's actually D'Angelo Russell, who's towards the bottom. I have Russell a little bit ahead of Bradley Beal, so that would be my answer.
What?
Yeah, I mean, Russell's a really good matchup today, which is going to help him more than anything. Yeah. He's playing against the Kings, and he's playing. These are the minutes D'Angelo Russell has played the last 4 games: 37, 37, 39, 42.
Yeah.
That's my guy there. I'm going with D'Lo.
Mr. Knoll, he is fallen by the wayside. That is for damn sure.
Who's that? Who?
The first Noel. Jalen Knoll.
Okay. Oh, my God. The news we just got, by the way, that I assume you're talking about, Rui Hachimura is going to start for the Lakers in place of LeBron James. And that's because, of course, LeBron James is sitting today. It's not all of a sudden the Lakers have decided that Hachimura is better than LeBron. It is that LeBron is resting tonight. Anthony Davis is resting. Mm-hmm. So I think we already were considering Rui as a play. He's one of my more rostered cheap players on the slate today. No surprise. He's also fairly popular. But what are we making of news that he's now starting?
We are going to see his ownership nuke. We're going to see it nuke to the sky. He's 4,100, multi-positional eligibility, has the power forward eligibility. That's what really matters. We have 489,362 good center plays, give or take a few. And Rui at power forward starting on a back-to-back. Again, this is the front end of a back-to-back. I will say some of my analysis has changed, and that's kind of what the Bradley Beal play is kind of signifying to me. I think Rui is just going to be uninhibited and play a lot more than you think he was tonight. I already had him as one of my highest owned players. His ownership had started coming down in an earlier round. Sugar, we're going down swinging. He's sub 30% now. I feel really good at a 0.9 fantasy point per minute player who I think has room to grow. The Lakers play up in pace compared to where he was at with Washington. We haven't seen a lot of the core numbers. It's almost data that doesn't matter. I just look at him as a 0.9 fantasy point per minute guy. I think he's probably going to be closer to a fantasy point per minute guy here today. And I think he has upwards of 32 minute upside, which is just wild to think about because I think the most minutes he's played 32 on the entire season. 32 is the most he's played all season, but did play 30 minutes on the 21st, the day before he left, came over to LA, just has the 2 games under his belt. We could see 30-minute upside from him, and that is really, really good with the power forward eligibility.
So what are we thinking? Schroeder, Beverly, Troy Brown, Hachimura, Thomas Bryant?
Yeah, it's not, as long as you didn't say Westbrook, that's correct.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it could be one of the other pieces that are wrong, but we know Hachimura is starting. We know Thomas Bryant is starting. We know Dennis Schroeder is starting and probably Patrick Beverly. So yeah, I'm going to get Schroeder, Beverly, Troy Brown, Hachimura, and Thomas Bryant. And like I said, I already liked Hachimura. Now his minutes are really solidified. I think he is the best value play on the slate. Is that crazy to say, or would you agree?
Thomas Bryant is my favorite play, period, on the slate. He's 5K, so it depends how you define value.
Okay. Yeah, I was thinking guys who are, I was actually looking sub 5K, which is funny. Cool. But yeah. I mean, either way, I think we're looking at Bryant's also a very strong option, but Hachimura, Bryant, and then Russell Westbrook as well. Who are the other Lakers that you're getting to? So we just got this starting lineup, and I think those are the big 3, right? Westbrook, Bryant, Hachimura. Mm-hmm. Do you disagree with any of those guys? And is there anybody else you would add to the mix as a high priority from the Lakers?
Do we have the full starting lineup listed there? We don't have it. We just have the Rui starting, but assuming it is exactly what you said there, I do have interest going to Dennis Schroeder. I think he's going a little bit underrepresented at 17%, but nothing drastic at all. 5,400 for him. It all projects out decently well for me. He's close to a 0.9 fantasy point per minute guy with the other guys off the floor this season. So I'm going to be looking at him. Russell Westbrook, Thomas Bryant, Rui, those 4, it gets really thin then. And I almost don't want to dabble with some of it. Like Troy Brown, 3,300. I think if he falls into a couple lineups, sure. But I prefer Wiggins. I think having later start time for some of those other roster spots, I just find it unnecessary. Like, what are the number of times Wenyen Gabriel shuts you down on a slate like this? Or Patrick Beverly goes and nukes a slate at 4K? Like, I don't find it all that scary. And I think we could have more value that shows up later pending Luka. So I'm probably just going to be sticking to those 4 today.
Super chat from Hippopotamus. Have a taco on me, Eric. So there's one from the Hippo himself. From one Eric to another, we've got a taco being handed out. By the way, Jordan, if you wouldn't mind, can you send me some of the super chats? I could be wrong, but I think some of them might have gotten cut off on my screen, at least from the YouTube comments coming down. But I just want to make sure I didn't miss anything here. John Bryant, super chat. Best play at each position on DK. Print that cash. All right. John Bryant wants to know our best plays at each position. So this is obviously subject to change as more news comes out. But at least as of now, these are the players I get to the most. Point guard, Russell Westbrook on DraftKings. Any disagreement from you there?
No.
Shooting guard for me right now. This is where it's a little more spread out. I do not think that there is a predominant shooting guard play that is well better than everything else. But for me right now, it is Anthony Simons.
Bradley Beal, not close. I have an unbelievable amount of him.
Okay, it is Anthony Simons for me. Bradley Beal's in my player pool. I have more of Simons, though.
We'll talk about him later.
Small forward for me is right now Aaron Wiggins. I think that is something that is going to change as more news comes out, though.
Who'd you say?
Aaron Wiggins.
Yeah, that's mine too right now, and I plan on utilizing that elsewhere.
Power forward, Hachimura now.
Hachimura for me.
And center, Thomas Bryant.
Yep, Thomas Bryant, done. 3 Lakers and whomever else. Those 3 are just so unfadable today. If you're playing more than a lineup, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, I totally agree. And it seems like we're on the same page, which isn't all that, uncommon that we would have a lot of the same players. across our lineups. Next super chat, Teddy Wayman. Sup, guys? Ivy or Simons on FanDuel? Thanks, and I appreciate all of the work you do. Eric, best of luck with Twitter.
Thanks, pal. It's weird that that's like a thing you have to say good luck to you, but like I kind of need it. It's been 2 weeks. I haven't heard a word from their support. Not a single peep. My whatever. Jordan Klein tried to like flex his big muscles and say, I know somebody at Twitter.
Yeah, actually, that was so. No, wait. We actually have to call Jordan out on this, because what Jordan actually did when he phrased this, when it was in our group chat, Jordan goes, wait, you don't know anybody who works at Twitter? And then you responded like as if Eric has Elon Musk's phone number, could just text him. Jordan's like, and Eric says, I don't know anybody who works at Twitter, Jordan. And Jordan says, don't worry, I'll help you out. And like 30 minutes later, oh no, he got fired. I don't actually know anybody.
Yeah, he got let go. He got let go from Twitter.
Eric knows a lot of people. You know, Charles Barkley, Mike Miller. I thought he'd know someone at Twitter.
I run into some people at charity golf events that, I get an opportunity to go hit a golf ball in. But
it was very funny though that Jordan did try to be like, don't worry. He did try to big time us.
I got you. I got you.
I know some higher
dude, bro, chill. My aunt knows a guy who's best friends with a dude who's a bro who's a chiller. And then we smoked weed one time with a guy that was nice. And then he said he worked at Twitter. Let me check with him. Oh no, he got let go.
Yeah. So unfortunately, Jordan led us to a dead end. But it seemed promising when he first left the message. By the way, for future reference, Jordan, here's what you do: you reach out first, and then you try to seem like the cool guy afterwards. You don't try to be the hero and then end up being the zero afterwards. Yeah, you want to go from zero
Jordan,
to hero, not
Jordan,
from hero to zero.
See, this is where I know Jordan in person, where it's like, if you know Jordan's going to lead with it to make you feel nice and have those warm fuzzies. And then he'll be like, I'm sorry. No,
that's it.
I didn't mean to. And he'll like crawl like this. And then all of a sudden he's just, like this on every show with you for the next 2 weeks.
And then all of a sudden he's under.
Are you mad at me? Are you mad at me, dude?
I tried to help you, and look, this is what I get. This is the last time I help you. All right.
I love you.
In fairness, you didn't actually help.
In fairness, you could
have made the entire thing up and never known anybody. Oh, by the way, for Teddy Wayman's part, I prefer Anthony Simons to Jaden Ivey.
I prefer Jaden Ivey.
So let me look at. Do you have it close or do you have a strong lean?
No, I don't have a I just pulled them both up. I have them projected both for 31 fantasy points.
I have more exposure to Ivy, to Simons over Ivy. So that's ultimately where I'm going to go. Something else too, which maybe this will sway you. Anthony Simons playing against the Atlanta Hawks. Trae Young's questionable for the Hawks. I do like getting the extra flexibility there.
I don't hate it. I'm just saying raw projection. They're 500 apart on DK as well.
It was a FanDuel, the exact same.
I assumed it probably was because, yeah, I'm pulling up FanDuel. I'm not playing there today, so I could only speak to DK. I'm not going to even speak unintelligently. I probably wouldn't care either way. I do like the late. If it's going to be a tiebreaker and identical, I do like the later game. So I'll switch my answer to Simons with you.
And by the way, something else I have to comment on, because I'm kind of looking through the chat as, in the order questions come. And I see people are pointing out that you were singing Christmas song before I know the reference. Yes, look at my hair. I did not know the Christmas song reference. I did not know what it was. That I've never heard that before in my life, nor like where would I have heard it? Haircut coming soon. Jordan Klein, can Eric sing a song? Yeah, Eric can. So he's capable, but he shouldn't. That's how I'm going to address Jordan's question. Can he? Yeah, I've heard him do it many times.
If we get over 1,500 likes, I'll play piano today on Live Before Lock.
All right. Well, we will not get a single more like over the course of the show.
Nope, we won't. There you go. 1,500. I'll play something on piano for you. Jordan Klein is like, disgusting.
Jojo. Yeah, we're going to get some copyright error here. Jojo Pookie. Yes, Eric can sing a song. And then it is a cool sunglass emoji and then 2 beers. Are we already at the 1,500 likes? Is that why you brought it up?
No, we're not at 1,500 likes. Okay. No way we're at 1,500 likes. What are we at? We have 3.6K people. This is like a high point from what I can remember on NBA Live Before Lock. Thank you for being here and trusting us with all this news that we haven't gotten yet. It is still half an hour from tip-off. We can't really do anything about this Glenn Rivers situation. If you're confused why we're calling him Glenn Rivers, you never tuned into the show. Promise you I'm not being a crazy person, but what?
It's his name. Why would we not call him that? He has
that's true.
No PhD to my knowledge. He doesn't seem to handle injuries all that well, or else, Joel Embiid wouldn't be questionable still 29 minutes before the game starts. He's Glenn. That's his name. He's a doctor of nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Other than, he's the only thing he is a doctor in is blowing playoff series. Anything, he's not a master of anything else. That he's got down pat. Next super chat is from Corey Shea. And Jordan, I'm going to answer a couple more of these, and then I'm going to need your expertise to look in on how much overlay there currently is on No House Advantage. But right now, I'm going to get caught up on some of these super chats. Corey Shea, Anderson or Cam Johnson, Anderson, Johnson, or Bay at small forward on DK.
Anderson, Johnson, or Bay. Let me pull it up. Small forward specifically is just disturbing today. Like outside of Anthony Edwards, I don't like a lot.
Cam Johnson, I should say, because I realize there's a bunch of Johnsons.
Yeah, I was going to say Keldon Johnson would have been a weird price tier for it.
Yeah.
But I would, I mean, I don't like any of them, but if you made me pick, I will go Cameron Johnson.
Just for the flexibility. I have all of these guys, by the way, projected between 27.1 and 27.3 fantasy points. They're very, very similar.
Yeah,
I'd rather give myself the flexibility here and just go with Cam Johnson. I don't know which of these players are going to get ruled out. I would be very surprised if they all play. So just give me the latest starting time. And also, these guys are fairly similar as is. Just give me the guy who starts in the latest start time. Gives us the most ability to make some swaps. Ace of spade, Westbrook, Murray, or Claxton for DK tiers. Westbrook
for sure. Throw ownership out the window there. I don't care.
Yes, Westbrook for me as well.
Like the nice thing about Russell Westbrook in a spot like this too is the guy just gets his fantasy points doing so many different things with everybody else off the floor. Like there's such an elevated floor with his rebounding and assist rate. Like I feel so much better about Russell Westbrook than you should for a guy you project for just 30 minutes at 7,500. Like I think he is going to go out and just cause a ruckus.
And by the way, Jordan, I see the super chats you sent me. Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm just reading these to make sure we got to them. And we did not get to this one. Michael Pizzulli. Hey, gentlemen, what are you thinking about the optimal percentage of sharp? Thanks. Let me refresh the boom bust tool.
Shaden Sharp. I have no idea.
Well, I'm going to refresh it and then I could tell you.
So I mean, Day'Ron Sharp is who we're looking at. And I mean, it comes down to being a backup center on a spot where if something happens to Nick Claxton, there is an absolute smash potential. You assume he's going to be all right. Like you would want to find some way to get to 20 minutes there too, because center is such a precious commodity. I say that kind of jokingly because precious Chua, it's a bad joke. But either way, center is very precious today in a way where like Day'Ron Sharp, I get why his optimal percentage is higher, but it's still so thin and you have to get the other parts of your lineup correct. And Nicholas Claxton's one of my favorite tournament plays on the slate at 8,100 on DK, and nobody wants to click on that. And I think you might end up with a little bit lower ownership on him than you might expect. Joel Embiid starting, that's good to know, but I can't imagine that I would want to use a center spot on him if I'm building out one lineup. If he falls into like 1 in 20 in a 20 max, 1 in 150, so be it. But would not be a priority for me on this slate.
And yeah, by the way, like you just said, Joel Embiid is going to play today. So I don't really think there's anything we need to prioritize from the Sixers, is there?
I will only have Joel Embiid and James Harden exposure, and probably not much of it at that.
Yeah. But by the way, it wasn't even close to the worst Precious Achiuwa joke you made in the last couple of weeks. Like not even in the ballpark.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Not even in the ballpark of the worst one you've made. While we are here, Kyrie Irving, Russell Westbrook for showdown. Both.
Probably.
If you're playing a showdown contest for the Nets Lakers game, you should have Westbrook and Kyrie Irving in it. In terms of just who I've projected for more fantasy points, it is Kyrie though.
Yeah, Kyrie, raw points. Russell Westbrook's going to be 85% in that thing, and who cares? Like, you're probably still clicking on him and playing him. I don't know what to tell you. Those are two players that if I was building one lineup for that, it would be impossible to imagine I wouldn't have a both.
Yeah. So both, if you're just talking about who is the more upside or who have projected better, the answer is Kyrie Irving. Jordan, let's check in on No House Advantage now, because we haven't talked about them yet this show. They are sponsoring the program. And if you guys haven't signed up yet and use our link, you're going to get up to $100 bonus on your first deposit and access to overlay that you're not going to find on DraftKings. You're not going to find on FanDuel. And unlike FanDuel, they're not going to be canceling the contest if the tournament doesn't fill either. So let's see what we're doing right now in terms of overlay. Jordan, what percentage of the contest is currently filled over at NHA?
The contest is currently 40% full. 5K.
All right, that's not very much. 40%. There's a whole bunch of wiggle room there. And by the way, this is just free money you guys are leaving on the table if you are not playing over at No House Advantage. And have you guys heard of Osmo, Alex Baker? He's prominent around these parts, helped start the company. He himself is playing over at NHA. And George, show them the kind of success that Alex had the other day. And here's the reality of it. Alex is just using the projections we have on our site and just uploading them to NHA because we have a lineup optimizer for No House Advantage. And you just take a handful of those, throw them into No House Advantage, and you're going to be profitable over time because of the amount of overlay that's there. And they are just offering contests with a lot of overlay for now to try to grow their site and try to attract new users. And it is something that if you guys aren't playing there, you're leaving some money on the table. Go make it so that Alex wins a little bit less from time to time. He's got enough. Go win some money at NHA as well. The next super chat that we have is from Justin Grant. There is no question here. Oh, here we go. He didn't leave a question, but there is a comment that he left in YouTube underneath. Took down the 250K showdown. So through you some, love the show. Dude, that's awesome. Justin, that is $250,000. I'm not the best mathematician in the world, but that checks out, right?
That would be correct.
$250,000.
Sick.
$250,000. That's awesome, Justin. Congratulations. Love to see that. And thank you for the super chat as well.
YLTSI.
You do love to see it. Jorge wants to know, what are you guys doing with Luka today? If he doesn't play and there will be one more game, how will you handle the late swap? First of all, I have a bunch of Luka right now.
Same.
He's taking a bunch of my lineup spots. Here's why. Number one, if he plays, I think he's going to be way under-owned. Fair to say.
Correct.
Luka is not going to garner the ownership that he warrants if he plays. Here's the other part. If Luka does happen to not play, we have a lot of maneuverability in here. First of all, we also have Trae Young, who's questionable to play in the game that starts after that. So there's stuff that you could swap to from there. But then also, if he doesn't play, I want to be able to swap to guys like Spencer Dinwiddie, who's also going to be a really good play. Tim Hardaway Jr., another guy that would look like a really good option if Luka doesn't play. So Luka right now, in terms of the upper tier guys, he is the pay up option I'm getting the most to. And whether he plays or not, I think I'm pretty set in terms of flexibility because of where that time slot is. But what are you doing with Luka right now, and how are you going to handle the late swap?
I have a ton of him. For me, different reasons. If he plays, how many more fantasy points do you have him projected than Joel Embiid today?
Ooh, let's see.
Because I have him projected for 11.5 more.
I have him for 8 more.
Okay. So I have him for 11.5 more, and that would create a massive piece that if you're able to intertwine that. Also, we could be getting more value. Looking at Atlanta, you could have Trae Young show up. If you have some Wiggins in your life here, maybe we can turn that into something else depending on the news for Dallas there. So I'm front loading Aaron Wiggins for the 8 p.m. game, front loading Luka for that Dallas game. And then I talked about Precious and Chris Paul, 2 pieces I'm just giving thumbs up and making sure that I get to a little bit more of them than the field. I mean, Precious is a great play no matter what happens, and I'm probably going to play a lot of him regardless. But going to Atlanta, you could be getting DeJounte Murray. Bogdanovich is 5,100. DeAndre Hunter's 5,100. We're talking about a really good spot with a game with a nearly 240 total going up against Portland. All of that creates just a ton of value. And I would want to get to as much of that as possible. And that would also be some cheaper pieces, 5,100 and stuff that go along with some of those Lakers pieces. Would be really nice to have Luka in the middle of that for a guy that I have 11.5 more fantasy points than anybody else on the slate.
Yeah, so Luka, I'm leaving him in for now. It's also something I shout out because Jorge says there will only be one more game. There's actually 2 games after Luka's game, which does make a difference. We've got Suns, Raptors, and Hawks, Blazers. So 2 games that actually lock after the Dallas Mavericks game. The next super chat we have is from Douglas Bowman. Is Alec Burks, our guy Alec Burks, see a GPP play on DK today without Hamidou Diallo playing? I have exposure to Alec Burks, but not like the other day. The other day, Burks was my most rostered player. I currently have him in 2 out of 20 lineups, so in 10% of them. There's so much value on the slate that I like other spots better, but he's in play for me.
Yeah, he's in play. I have 5% of him. He's coming in way over-owned, I think, at 15%. We got to get out of the rhythm in DFS. Like, you can talk about if somebody projects out low. Like, there was that run where Bojan was projected for 15.5 points for like 3 weeks when I would have him constantly for like 20, 20.5, 21. But then as soon as it gets to 20.5, 21.5 for a line, you have to realize that it's efficient. Like, the ownership on Alec Burks is completely efficient today. I'd just say it's a little bit over-owned. He started the last 2 games. I will say, though, 30 and 27 minutes, I would want to see more than that. I know he's a fantasy point per minute guy. That's why he's going to project out nicely if you do have him in for 30 minutes. But I have him in for more of the 27, 26 minute type projection on it. And that just brings him as just a neutral piece on a slate like this. We have 8 games. We have very pronounced value with the Lakers. We could have more pronounced value with Dallas and Atlanta coming up later. So for me, it's just a dude who's going to fall into a couple lineups. Whereas before, he was 4,400 starting out of nowhere, and Killian Hayes was on the bench, and you just had no idea what was going on, and you knew he would be drastically under-owned. Like, this is far, far more efficient.
Yeah, some questions in our Discord channel as well. Now, this one I'm already really starting to regret here, but Timma2937. Hey, at Ehrenberg, Greg, I've got a whole new respect for you for standing up for your coworker. I'm his boss. We're not like on equal levels here. It's the right thing to do. Yeah, I would prefer to not be viewed in that way. But if you guys have not gone on Twitter and looked, Eric is banned right now. We want to bring him back. File a report to Twitter support. If you guys would not mind, we would appreciate it. And then Just Locks, favorite small forward / power forward for a FanDuel GPP. Let's see. Who did I get to the most over at FanDuel in the lineups that I built? Also, keep in mind some of these.
What am I looking at on the screen? Oh, I'm working at Twitter. Yeah, no, that isn't happening. That's the opposite of what's happening. But I get the joke.
I don't even. Oh, you mean your label?
Yeah. Why am I keep Eric in jail? Man, I didn't think I was this polarizing of a figure, but YouTube chat the last couple of days has been pretty on both ends of this one. A lot of people who don't want to ever see me again, and I get that. I don't either, but whatever.
You know what would help more people want to see you? If you answered the question of our friend Just Locks.
All right, going to FanDuel. Shut up. It's fine.
Yeah, favorite small forward / power forward. So Hachimura is still a really strong option. It is a little different FanDuel compared to DraftKings, though, because he's $5,300 on FanDuel as compared to $4,100 over on DK.
I'm looking.
One. You know, it's funny.
I'll go.
Oh,
go ahead.
I was going to say my contrarian one the other day was Dorian Finney-Smith. This is more or less the same spot for him, but he's gone from being like 5% owned to 25%.
That's pretty wild.
Favorite. If I'd pick out one guy, I'd honestly still probably go Rui.
Jeremy Grant.
Jeremy Grant, also somebody who I think makes a lot of sense. He's somebody in the build I made. I ended up coming in overweight to the field. But yeah, Jeremy Grant, Rui, I don't think you could go wrong with either of them. Also, keep in mind, Nurkic is questionable to play for the Blazers. Yep. If he doesn't play, Grant would benefit even more. But yeah, I think both of those are pretty good options for you there. Just Locks, some more super chats, and then we'll answer more of these Discord questions. This one, James Hay. Dislike this milestone. Eric and Greg are the best.
Yes.
Absolutely. 100%. Thank you, James Day. The next super chat, and YouTube's doing the thing where it scrolls past everything. So let me go
It's not
back
fun.
up. Yeah, gotta scroll back up and find the questions again. I had it all ready to go. Michael McKinney, 5 must plays for FanDuel cash, and thanks, guys. The 5 absolute must plays over for FanDuel in cash purposes.
Pretty easy today. Tim Hardaway Jr.'s 5,300 on FanDuel. That was pretty clear cut. If you don't have Luka, you want that piece. So you're going to want some maneuverability. Russell Westbrook for sure. 7,800, a joke. I would be using my center spot on Thomas Bryant, 5,800 for that. Alec Burks, nah, not over there. 4,200 Aaron Wiggins, probably just do it for a blocker purposes, him or Seth Curry. Seth Curry is pulling a lot of ownership on FanDuel, and then I'll let you round it out.
Did you say Westbrook there?
Yeah, I did. First guy.
Okay. So Westbrook, Hardaway, definitely players I think that we should have in there. Precious Achiuwa, another one. If nothing else, number one, he's a really good points per dollar play right now. He's really popular. But in addition to that, in a late starting time. So if something was to happen where Luka gets ruled out, we got extra flexibility to make some swaps there. So Precious Achiuwa, somebody else that I think you should have in your FanDuel cash lineup.
Can I also throw out a bet for the people? Because I mean, last night I couldn't believe it. And then it got taken off the board. And then it showed up again this morning. We had even crazier odds. Precious Achiuwa is plus 190 on DK right now to get a double-double.
Luka will play today.
All right, good to know.
I'm just give out your bet and then we'll talk about Luka.
Plus 190 double-double Precious Achiuwa.
There we go. I by the way, I do think that's good value. I probably haven't projected for...
I haven't projected for a double-double. That's why I'm saying plus 190 for a thing that I haven't projected for. Useful, Milati.
Yeah, I think that's... It probably should be like even money.
Yeah, and it's plus 190. That's why it was one of the locks on Eric Lindy's leans, likes, and locks last night. Yeah, when it showed up again on plus 190 on DK, it is an absolute smash to the moon play.
All right, we've got a bunch of questions. Let's try to be quick here. Luka Doncic, just play Luka. Luka's the best spend up option on the slate.
Fact, I'm playing a ton.
Yeah, and also 12
you should
minutes
have
to go
zero
into
interest in another Dallas Maverick not named. If you wanted to get to Powell in a couple, sweet, but even that I don't want anymore.
Ace of Spade, Dame, Curry, or Sabonis for DK tiers.
I can tell you right now, Sabonis, knowing the way things work for me, but let me double check. It's definitely Sabonis for me. 4%.
It is Dame for me, but it is fairly close.
Okay. Yeah, Dame's going to be more popular, so that'll be the default for me.
The next question here is from Parker Colonna. He wants to know, what would you say the percentage chance of Luka, Nurkic, and Hart sitting tonight? Well, 0% now that Luka has been ruled in.
Yeah, that's tough scene.
Nurkic, I think Nurkic has been on the injury report every game for like a month now. So yep. I think, so Luka we already know is playing. Nurkic, I think, is like 80% to play. Josh Hart, I'd call 50-50.
Josh Hart, yeah, it's true 50-50. And then my question is, we can't play Drew Eubanks, right? Like, he's just such a zero at a center spot. He's 3,600, which is, yeah. It was one of those things where I was like thinking about it. They got blown out by Toronto. I think in a more competitive spot, he probably plays 26-28 in absence of Yusuf Nurkic if Nurkic sits. So it's at least a guy on the radar. I think I'm just going to be playing him on a late slate. I'm probably not going to be able to do it. So there's that. Daniel Gafford ruled out. Interesting.
Yeah, so we'll talk about that in a second. But just real quick, I know that Nurkic missed last game and he's questionable, but he's been questionable every game now for, I think it's like 6 weeks. So it's so hard for me to say that I think he's that, like, I mean, maybe 80% is too high, but I'll say like 60% he plays.
He sat last game.
That's what I said. He sat last game.
Okay, good. Yeah.
Except he's also been questionable every game for so long now.
True.
So I think he's more likely to play than not. But with Daniel Gafford now being out, does this change anything significantly for you? And just quickly, if you could, because we do have a bunch of super.
Yeah, not significantly. I think it gives it a little bit of a boost to Kuzma, Porzingis in terms of a rebound rate, but nothing crazy. I mean, you're looking at, it's going to be, do we think Denny, because I'm assuming Porzingis just plays the 5 here routinely. Kuzma, I mean, does Denny have a chance to jump into the starting lineup, or is this going to be Delon Wright?
I assume the starting lineup is going to be so Kuzma, Beal, Porzingis, Morris. That's 4 of the 5.
Correct.
They might just start Taj Gibson again.
I hope not. See, starting Taj next to Porzingis just seems weird to me. They haven't done
Starting
that,
Taj
right?
Gibson at all seems weird, but they've done it a bunch of times.
There's that. But I feel like Porzingis was out for a lot of those starts for some reason. Let me go double check my work here.
Avdija is probably most likely. I mean, they traded Hachimura for almost nothing for the sole purpose of trying to get Avdija more playing time, which, by the way, is so ridiculous. Like, I don't understand the teams being like, we had to get him more playing time. You could just play him more. You're the team. There is no obligation to play Hachimura big minutes, but that was the big reason for them making the trade. Ace of Spade, Super Chat, Edwards, Fox, or Paul for DK tiers. Let's see, Edwards, Fox, or Paul.
I love Edwards today.
That is Edwards for me.
Yeah.
The next question is Embiid or Kyrie for DK tiers. That is Embiid.
Yes.
The next question we have. Did I catch up on them?
You crushed it. Look at that. No Taj love. No, not on today's slate. If you use a center spot today on Taj Gibson, rethink everything.
No. Okay. So never mind. Discord. I just got a ton of my notifications weren't working in Discord before.
Oh, so I'm so sorry.
Well, now we got a bunch of questions to answer.
Oh, okay, let's answer.
Who are the own plays you would play in a cash GPP hybrid on DraftKings? I wouldn't do that. I would not play so if you're playing one lineup that's in your cash and GPP, like they're inherently different strategies and play styles. I would be more apt to just play a cash lineup and play the most popular guys and also throw it into a GPP. Right, like I wouldn't play a GPP lineup and then play it in cash games.
I think what he's asking. I think is that like if you take like what would you pivot off of in your cash lineup? Because like Russell Westbrook cash, Rui Hachimura cash, Thomas Bryant cash, Precious Achiuwa cash. I would be building out DeJounte Murray probably in cash on DK just for the swappability. And if you get Trae Young ruled out, it's the nuts. And if you end up having to play a sub 8K DeJounte Murray, life will go on. Dorian Finney-Smith no longer in cash for me, even though he would probably be somebody that would be considered, if you will, has a later start time. So I don't completely hate it. I think he's asking like, where would you be pivoting? I think Chris Paul is
he's playing one lineup in cash and GPP.
Oh, that's weird to me then. Yeah, don't do that.
Yeah, I would say this, just if you want, it's totally fine to just play a cash lineup and just throw it into a GPP, but just build it as a cash lineup. That's how I would do it.
Okay.
And it's still the same guys we were talking about before. Like you want to have Westbrook, you want to have Thomas Bryant, you want to have Rui Hachimura. I think you want to have Luka now. I think Luka is somebody you want to have in there. He's not that hard to fit in. So that's the way that I would go with that. Sam Cassell Dance, can you share a contrarian shooting guard or small forward option that we like on DraftKings?
Bradley Beal. How many times do I have to say Bradley Beal? I think Bradley Beal could play 35, 36 minutes tonight. And here's my reasoning. He played 33 last time out. He played 30 in a back-to-back scenario. We saw a back-to-back scenario for a hamstring-riddled Bradley Beal, and he played 30 minutes in each. I think that was a planned thing where they didn't necessarily extend him to the 33, 34 he could play. And that New Orleans game, they definitely were ahead, and they didn't have to push him a little bit extra. I know that they ended up winning by 10, but like, Bradley Beal, I truly think comes out and plays 35, 36 minutes in a competitive spot. It is San Antonio, so that's kind of an if sometimes, but it's on the road. And I think without Gafford, without other guys, like Bradley Beal is going to have that game. He goes out and knocks down a bunch of shots, and it's just over. He hasn't shot the ball well in recent games either. 5 for 17 from the field, 7 for 17, 7 for 17. I freaking love that. Because he's 7,200, and if he shoots the ball well, he's sub 10% at a tough to fill spot compared to point guard, compared to center. I have 48% Bradley Beal right now. I think he is by far the most underprojected player everywhere in the industry today.
By the way, I don't have as much Bradley Beal as you, but I am overweight to him.
If you slide it to 34, 35 minutes, you're going to get as much of him as what I did, though. That's kind of the thing. Like, I truly think in a competitive spot, that's what he's playing.
Brad Kaufman, Sabonis or Lillard in utility. I'm not really playing much of either of them, especially now that we have the Luka news. And we also got a question from Lippy in our Discord channel. Thoughts on Dame? I just did what I could to play as much Luka as possible as a pay-up option. Between the two, I would go Lillard, but I'm not prioritizing Lillard or Sabonis today. Lillard if it has to be one or the other.
Yeah, I was getting to a ton of Anthony Edwards, like we're talking double the field as well. It started to trend down a little bit. I'm still over the field, just over 25%, but part of it is that now that I know Luka's in, I'm just jamming Luka. This is just an under-owned piece on a slate with value already. I get that he's at point guard, and I get that we have Russell Westbrook and Shea and Schroeder even on that same team and a lot of other spots. But like when we're talking raw points on this slate, there is nobody who is close to Luka. I just want more of him.
The next super chat we have is from Eric Adgison, Schroeder and Luka, or Irving and Westbrook. So for this one, I'm actually going to say Irving and Westbrook. I like the correlation you're getting between the two of them.
Mm-hmm.
And of those players, as much as I love Luka, I do have more exposure to Westbrook.
Yeah, I'm pretty close to identical now in terms of ownership to both of them. I'm a little under on Russell Westbrook's a phenomenal play. There's not any denying it whatsoever. I think just getting to him, well, yeah, I have a tiny bit more Westbrook. I just reran everything. So like 2% more than I have of Luka.
All right. More super chats coming in. So let's try to answer. We just got like 5 super chats to answer in 2 minutes here.
Go. I'll be quick.
Best play 4,900 and under on DK.
So we're cutting off Bryant. I'm going to go Denny Avdia now.
Yep, makes sense to me. I could get on board with that. Gobert, Bryant, or Achua. I mean, these guys are in different price points, but yeah. I have Bryant the most exposure to by far of those.
Yeah, Bryant, precious. And I love Nicholas Claxton for tournaments today.
The next question is from Patrick. Westbrook and Sohan, or Russell and Collins for FanDuel GPP? Westbrook and Sohan.
Same. Sohan almost won me a tournament yesterday. God, I thought I was going to get something. It went to overtime. I got nothing out of OT from him, but he also like 10x, so I'm not going to complain that much.
Ryan Nelson, Suns money line. They're getting healthy in Toronto, 4th game on the road. I think the Suns are just an undervalued team in general right now. The next super chat is from David Oakes. Doncic, Porzingis, and Burks, or Curry, Draymond Green, SGA for DK GPP. Doncic, Porzingis, and Burks. The next one is Nicholas Barrett, forward on DK, $5,800 left. Let's see. 58. That is Kevin Cam Johnson.
Cam Johnson again for me. And yeah, I have him and Herter pretty close, but they're 300 apart.
All right. That catches us up on the super chats. There are questions answered in the Discord as well. Guys, don't go anywhere. And by the way, I think some of these questions we're going to be able to answer in a second anyway, because there's only one game that locks at 7. But don't leave anywhere, because right at lock, Eric and I are going to be sticking around for the next 30 minutes. We're going to be talking about some bets we like for the slate, going to be reacting to any kind of injury news that comes out. And if anybody's absolutely just going crazy in the Sixers Orlando Magic game, we'll be talking about that as well.
Hope not.
Let's see the questions here. Sam Cassell Dance, can you share a contrarian shooting guard or small forward play that we like? Oh, right. You answered Bradley Beal.
Bradley Beal.
Hef Love were able to get in the leaderboard contests on DK. Yeah, I entered all my contests this morning. I got in them. Are you playing the leaderboard contest?
I am. I'm playing the 40 and the other one. I have to go to South Dakota this weekend. Nothing like a February wedding. Can't wait. Yeah, I can't play I'm not going to play the 100 just because it's like, I know what I have to play at the other days this weekend. I think I can hand build out, $45 of lineups doing the 5 and the 40 over the course of the weekend.
Yeah. I mean, it's just added value. So the other thing too, Hef Love, is yes, I am. Whenever these things kind of go up, enter them as early as possible. Don't wait. They do fill fairly quickly.
Yeah. I filled it before noon today. I saw.
I didn't see what time it filled, but I know even this morning when I was entering them, and that was probably like 10 a.m. my time or something like that.
Did you find it a little weird, the $100 paid out for 4th to 10th? The only reason I didn't do it mainly was 4th to 10th pays out in an 888 ticket. It's like,
I mean, I play in that contest every day anyway, so I would like.
Oh, I don't.
It's
just
added value.
Oh, you're talking the $100 you play in every single day. Got it. I thought you meant the 888 you play in every day. And I was just like, oh, go you. I will be a peasant over here.
Because he's talking about the leaderboard contest.
Yeah. No, the leaderboard, it's a great contest. Yeah, there's some good stuff there. But again, paying out 4th to 10th is one thing. Like, I think the 40 and the 5, they both paid out on the back end of it. Let's see the starting lineup for the Lakers. Exactly what we expected it to be. That's good.
Schroeder, Beverly, Brown, Hachimura, Bryant. So nothing unexpected there. And just to recap what we were saying about the Lakers before, is if there was some sort of weird starting line, there could be other players we'd want to get to. But the real priorities here, and this is not going to be a surprise to anybody if you know what we've been talking about here, looking at the ownership, but Hachimura, Bryant, and then even though he isn't starting, still Russell Westbrook off the bench. We never thought he was going to start. He's still a very high priority, but Schroeder, Beverly, Troy Brown, are any of those guys players that are meaningfully in your lineups?
No, not meaningfully. Dennis Schroeder is in 18% of them. Like I'm 1% over the field, but I don't call even that like a meaningful amount.
Fair enough. Yeah, I think that does make some sense.
I'm going to rerun some stuff too, because I'm pretty sure Denny Avdia is going to be crazy popular for me.
Sam Cassell Dance. Thanks, Eric, for his helpful answer. Beal, what is this? Beal boost my contrarian percentage up to 60%. I guess he's playing 60%, Bradley Beal.
No, so, but the contrarian percentage, he's using the lineup builder, I think, here at Stokastic. I think if you use the lineup generator, if you're putting it in by hand and you can see and value what your lineup is going to be, I think that was kind of the boost he's talking about.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense then. Did we get caught up on these? Yes, I think we did. Oh, never mind. T. Lee. I'm late, but what are you? He wants to know who we got the most exposure to at each position.
Sure.
Yeah, so the couple guys that I ended up getting, and by the way, I should mention the injuries that we're still waiting for. We got the Luka in. That obviously helped. Joel Embiid being in. That helped us also. But the players we're still waiting on. Trae Young is questionable. Yusuf Nurkic is questionable. Rudy Gobert is questionable. Josh Hart is questionable. And Taurean Prince is questionable. The Gobert one's another one. Do you just assume, like me, that he just plays at this point? It's crazy.
Yeah, I do, but we're going to be able to react to it if we don't. Like the game locks at 8. There's only two games that lock before 8 p.m. Eastern time. The whole slate like begins then. Orlando, Philadelphia, I have one share out of a bunch of lineups of Joel Embiid. The Lakers, we're going to obviously use lineup spots on those, but like you should be able to just react to whatever happens with Rudy Gobert. So there's no use in even like worrying about it. If he sits, you just play all the Naz Reid and Kyle Anderson and all the land. You play all the D'Angelo Russell and Anthony Edwards and all the land. You can get to a little Jaden McDaniels, but like Naz Reid, 4,300, I would have 100% of if he doesn't play. If Rudy Gobert does play, he's just a dude who at a center spot looks good. Like a lot of other centers, no way a priority on a day like today where you just have too many of them.
Yeah, still curious to see what that Wizards starting lineup is. That could end up changing some stuff for us. So
I think Denny starts, by the way. I know that might be a contrarian take, but I think Denny starts.
I mean, we got time.
He only has one start in this calendar year in 2023. It's him or Delon Wright. Like those are the only two I think that start. I don't think Taj Gibson starts with Porzingis playing.
Here's actually who I think is going to start. Best guess is Corey Kispert. For whatever reason.
Oh yeah, shit. Why did we forget about Corey Kispert? Yeah, he's definitely starting.
They just like starting Kispert when they're short. So here's the other thing too. That Kispert's not necessarily a normal starter for the Wizards, but whenever they're shorthanded, they seem to just throw him in. That's actually
that's what they've been doing for the last couple of games. It's two spots where it didn't. But I guess for me, my thinking was like just reading all this crap about Rui getting traded and wanting to play Denny more and finding minutes for him. They have found minutes for him off the bench, 32, 30, 27. I just put him in for 30 minutes against the Spurs, and he looks awesome to me now.
So, by the way, are you agreeing with me that Kispert starts or still your hot?
Yes, I'm with you. I have made a drastic mistake.
Well, I'm happy you've come around to my side after putting up a fight there.
Oh, did somebody just say Kispert is showing starting? Does he have a green check mark, perhaps? Does he have a green check mark? Ooh.
Which, by the way, the green check mark people, the reason that late swap failed for MMA DFS is because the green check mark people are the same people that are in charge of, updating who starts their fights at what time. So if you want to know why the MMA late swap failed, it's because of our favorite way to troll Eric with the green check marks. And the way that they're just absolute total horseshit that isn't really good information. also tanked the MMA product for a couple months. But this weekend, we're back. We're back. Late swap gone this weekend. I'm pretty happy about that.
I'm not, because I thought Rainmakers, that was the really appealing part of playing it. And I had just bought a couple of the elite packs because I was going to like plan out a couple of fight cards where I wanted to have exposure to like the top tier packs. I got an amazing Rainmaker pack. So that was outrageous. I sent you that one. I got an elite, 2 legendaries, and a Rainmaker that are all playable elite fights. The girl's like a minus 800 favorite in 2 months. Like pretty happy with what I got. But yeah, as soon as that happened, it's like, well, shit, now I can just play regular DFS. Whereas Rainmakers was the only spot to not have to deal with late swap.
I mean, the contest's already set in terms of what the size is for it. So it doesn't.
Yeah,
change
but
anything.
I'm saying that now I'm going to play the DFS because it has no late swap, which was the whole point of me going and playing Rainmakers in the first place.
I didn't even think you were playing MMA DFS though.
I played a lot during the pandemic, and then I just quit because it was the one sport I didn't cover here. And then I just kind of lost touch of who was relevant for the last 2 years. Just didn't have enough time to focus on another DFS sport. And then Rainmakers, when they didn't have late swap there, I was like, oh, these are going to be insane value. And they surely were.
Yeah, I mean, it's fun to me. I just like MMA DFS in general. Like Rainmakers, I was texting about this the other day. I think it's the most fun DFS sport.
Yeah, I probably think that's true, but Saturday's my one day off. So it's hard to want to be like, I'm going to grind this sport that I don't cover the entire rest of the week just today and not play golf for, spend time with my wife the one time that I can. So,
and the main card starts at 1 a.m. Eastern time.
Oh
on
God,
Saturday.
To see. So now I definitely am not going to be buying packs for that. Good to know.
John Bryant, is it bet? And Teely, I know your question. We're going to hit on that in a second. We got some other questions in the Discord, and then we'll talk about some of our favorite bets. And then also, don't forget, guys, 5-day free trial. If you haven't signed up over at Stokastic using it, this is your last day to do it, because in 4 hours and 52 minutes, all of our free stuff expiring. So you're running out of time to take advantage of that. John Bryant, and that's 5 days for free. Access to all of our tools, lineup generator, player projections, ownership, all of that for NBA, free for 5 days, and only a few hours left to sign up for that. John Bryant, is it best to pay down for Burks at shooting guard or pay up on DK? In terms of I don't have a single shooting guard right now in more than 20% of my lineups.
I have Bradley Beal. I have DeJounte Murray. I have tons of them.
So I guess you would be more in the spend up. I mean, not spend all the way up, but like upper mid range shooting guard.
By the way, Denny Avdia, I have north of 45% of now. I thought that seemed pretty prominent. I think he's just an awesome play.
Yeah, I mean, I think that Denny makes sense as well. I just don't think he starts. I don't want people to think that.
Same. No. That was a complete fuck up on my part. I'm an idiot. I bring shame to the house, Lindquist.
So you know what that also means? Can I take a victory lap for the text message conversation about whether Denny coming off the bench matters or not?
No. I had to think through the conversations. That was actually a Rolodex where I'm like, oh shit, we text our little group, we text a lot. Mm-hmm. That thing is
and sometimes not just naked pictures. Like this was a basketball conversation.
Spanish Armada, 1649. That is correct.
So, John, I wouldn't say spending all the way up at Burks is not my favorite option at shooting guard on DK. I think he's about appropriately owned, but guys like Bradley Beal, Anthony Simons, those are players that it's like upper mid range, like the 6 to 7K range is where I think is kind of the sweet spot shooting guard on DK.
Yep.
Corey Shea, Keldon Johnson, and Westbrook, or Cam Johnson and Chris Paul. Keldon Johnson and Russell Westbrook.
Yes.
Lots of green check marks in the YouTube chat. Love to see it.
Things you love to see that.
So T. Lee wants to know who we ended up getting the most exposure to. So let's do it. Point guard. Who did you end up getting the most of, Eric?
Russell Westbrook, Luka Doncic, tied. Basically tied.
Westbrook and Luka for me. Shooting guard is so spread out for me. Simons, Herter, Bradley Beal. There's a bunch of guys in here. Like this is the position I'm most spread out at by far.
Yeah, I'm jamming Beal, so that's cool.
And small forward for you?
Denny Avdia.
It is Aaron Wiggins for me right now. I assume that is probably going to change after we get Trae Young news, but for now it's him. Power forward, Rui by a mile.
Rui by a mile.
Center forward, Thomas Bryant. Rui also center eligibility, and Precious.
Correct. Well, yeah, both great.
And some of the other questions that we've gotten. This one is from Einsteinium. Thoughts on John Collins tonight? I like him if Trae Young doesn't play.
Same Z's.
I'm not reserving roster spots for him.
I kind of am, because I have my swap in place in like the single entry stuff and in a couple of large field lineups where it's like I have the Precious and I have it kind of like mapped up what I'm going to do if that news comes across. It will have to come before 9 p.m. Eastern time. If it comes in after that, there's not a whole lot I can do, because the Simons Precious kind of swap, like it's set up in a way where I can kind of do what I want, but still it's going to be difficult.
I guess the one, that for me is, well, I have Jeremy Grant exposure. I guess that's something that could change. But yeah, I think so. Obviously, like I said, if John Collins ends up playing sans Trae Young, I like him better. I don't know that I'm going to end up getting to a ton of him though.
I won't either. It's just too late, and it just doesn't feel like something that I need to do on this 8-gamer. We have really good Lakers pieces. I'll probably get to a tiny bit, but it doesn't feel like the kind of play I need to carve out a spot for. It's not going to nuke his projection. I mean, you still have DeAndre Hunter out there, Bogdanovich. Like those are guys that I have a little bit more priority for because they're 5,100, a little bit cheaper. I think they're a little bit more gettable, and they're identical to Precious. So I'll see how my lineups are doing in this early window of games. And if I need to get away from Precious, I'm probably going to just move to Bogdanovich or Hunter.
The next question that we have in the Discord chat comes from Lippy. What are you guys' thoughts on Bates Giop? So Keita Bates Giop is somebody who I have in my player pool, but like not a significant amount of.
Nah, he's just a dude.
A little bit different now that he is 3,600 versus when he was the flat min at 3K.
Correct. And also, we've seen some interesting spots where they can still play McDermott, Stanley Johnson, Branham. They have enough bodies there where, like, what are we trying to force out of him at 3,600? Like, he's played 25, 27, and then 32, but the 32 was an overtime spot. They ended up losing by 10 in overtime to Phoenix here. It was 2 days ago. That slate was 2 days ago. But I feel as though 26, 27 out of him isn't all that appealing.
Yeah, and then Einsteinium's follow-up is, if Trae Young is out, would you play? So I assume this is for a single entry lineup. Trae Young or John Collins or Precious Achiuwa if Trae Young is out and in a single entry.
John Collins and Precious Achiuwa?
No, John Collins or Precious Achiuwa. So if Trae Young was ruled out,
I would still go Precious, but it would be if you had Trae Young out and you were able to react to that news. Yeah, you could probably make that pivot. For me, it just comes down to like they're both good plays. And in the scenario you gave with Trae Young being out, I would have to see how my other lineups are doing. If I was chalky or elsewhere, I'd maybe make the pivot regardless. But if my lineups are doing really, really well going into that game, just play Precious.
I think that makes sense. And also, it does seem like a scenario where it's unlikely we're going to get Trae. I don't think we're going to get Trae Young news until later in the night.
Do people understand that to the most part? Because I feel like I've had this conversation in my DMs a lot recently where people are like, you always talk about late swap. Like, oh, should I swap to this? Oh, somebody isn't starting. And I'm like, you're giving me only one major part of the equation by asking me 1 versus 1. Like, how is your lineup doing? How are other players on the slate doing? Like, that is such a huge part of when you're deciding to late swap to certain things. It's not just like, I want to react to the latest news because it's like, well, if my lineups are dead and we get news before, 9 p.m. Eastern time that Trae Young's out, yeah, I'm going to pivot to as much Atlanta as I can, regardless of anything, and get away entirely from a guy like Precious because he's popular. Like, that's a huge part of playing DFS, not just, hey, this happened, now this. It's more of like, well, are my lineups looking great? Are my lineups looking terrible? You have to look at the context of the slate. We're trying to build information. And it's almost like a double-edged sword for why you want to be late swapping. You get to react to the most information possible, and you get lower owned plays because of uncertainty than what they would have been if you knew that before lock.
Yeah, and it's just going to be like, if you had to guess, what you said is, what time does the Trae Young news drop?
I'm assuming they're going to let him warm up because, I assume he warms up because it's an ankle injury, and probably, I will say, optimistically, I would want it to be 8:45 p.m. Eastern time. I think it's going to be 9:15 p.m. Eastern time that news comes out.
Probably like 9:01, right after the other game locks, and people
sure
freak out
is
on Twitter.
Oh no, certain sites are working with the books to take our money. I want a refund on my trade.
Void.
Void.
Capital letters. Void.
I couldn't have taken an under. The only option was to take an over on Trae Young.
GG, 1, 2, 3. Edwards, DFS, and Troy Brown, or Beal, Sokan, and Precious. Beal, Sokan, and Precious.
Beal, Sokan. That second one is so fun.
I have more just like looking at all these players, I have more exposure to Beal than I do to Edwards. I have more exposure to Precious Achiuwa than I do to Dorian Finney-Smith. I have more exposure to Sokan than I do to Troy Brown.
Yes. Again, Sokan was sub 1% last slate. It was incredible.
How good was it?
It was incredible.
I like how your eyes roll back in your head when you say it.
Just stuff happens to me when you get a sub 1% play who goes for, what did he go for in that game? He was 4,800. He went for 47.5, just short of 10x, and he put up 0. Played the entire overtime period. Went like 0 for 4, 0 for 5. I was tilting. I just needed a little bit for 100K. Needed a little bit. Still had a really good day.
I think we're caught up. Did we finally get all these questions?
Think so.
All right, cool. We got, nope. Who would you play over Seth Curry for a DK tournament? Interesting.
Anybody?
So Seth Curry is $5,300 on draft.
I have like no Seth Curry. I have 0 Seth Curry. I think it's a bad play today, but that's just me.
I have some exposure to Seth Curry. As far as guys who are priced similarly to him, I mean, I guess Alec Burks at 4,900. But once again, like I have Seth Curry the better projection. If you have the $400, just Seth Curry. Is there anybody who's priced within like a couple $100 of them that you? Oh, actually, Kevin Huerter. I like Kevin Huerter more.
There you go. Let's hurt some sheep with Kevin Huerter.
Yeah, Kevin Huerter's 5,400. It depends if you have Curry in your point guard or your shooting guard spot. But if you are able to get to what happened,
just Jordan judges me when I say, he's like, dude, where does your brain go? Like, why? Kevin the sheep herder. That's great. That's a great funny nickname. You don't like it?
We all heard you the first time. You don't need to say it again. There's no need for it. We all heard.
Why are you so disgusted by that? That's funny.
By the way, Norm Macdonald had a great joke that kind of makes me think of, where it's in terms of, you never get, depending what you do, you never really get remembered for it. So it's like, if you're the first man who invented the stove, they don't call you Eric the stove creator. If you're the world's best hair cutter, they don't call you Eric the hair cutter. But if you fuck one sheep, forever you get known as. It just kind of made me think of that, right?
That's really funny. Yeah, Kevin the sheep herder.
Yeah, I mean, it is like most of you guys. I'm also disappointed in Eric's puns, but you just learn to you learn to live with it.
Let's go
over some of our favorite bets of the day. 10 minutes left. No House Advantage is sponsoring the show, and if you look at No House Advantage, not only do they have DFS, but they also have bets that you guys could play against the house over there. So if you guys are in a state and maybe you don't have access to like a BetMGM, which, by the way, we have our BetMGM sign up below as well, where you sign up to get 1 free month of Stokastic Plus Platinum. But depending where you live, you might have access to sports betting. You might not, but there's a good chance that if you're not in a legal sports betting state, you can play over on No House Advantage. And we do have prop projections available over at stokastic.com. So let's look at the NHA against the house props. And Jordan, if you wouldn't mind pulling those up on screen so we can look through those as well. Any overlay there, perhaps? How much?
It's 84% full currently. So
oh, all right. So we're getting closer to there. But if you guys haven't entered over at NHA, there are some spots available in their NBA contest, but also their props against the house, which you could always play over at No House Advantage. And what looks good over there? 8.5 assists looks very high for Damian Lillard.
I would agree with that.
Damian Lillard. And I understand he had a stretch earlier in the year where he was putting up a ton of assists. It has waned a little bit as of late. Let's see. How many games this month? So since January 2nd, only 4 games out of like 15 that Dame has hit that mark. It's also a team that's generally just been a little bit healthier as of late. So maybe that does. I'll say this. For now, I think it's a bet that will look good if Nurkic and Josh Hart are both in. If Nurkic and Hart are out, I would avoid it.
Agreed. Like that
would change
like
our
assist
assist projection there.
Yep. Like it.
Anything else that's standing out to you here on NHA on these bets?
Josh Giddey, 7.5 rebounds. I like a little bit more than that. Of course, my guy Bojan just sitting there 20.5, just staring me in the face, but I can't do it. Must show restraint.
You've been off the Bojan train for a minute now.
I have. It's been wild, but we've found some different avenues. Zach LaVine ended up being a cash cow there. We found our way onto some of these double props and triple props have just we've been running super hot. I repeat, Pascal Siakam, double plus 190 is a bad line. He's at 8.5 rebounds over on NHA. I like over on that for the versus the house section. That just looks really, really good too.
I think the one that Eric pointed out before, the precious double, love it. I think that's a great bet that Eric found.
Thanks, pal.
I do like it quite a bit. Lippy, so some more questions in our Discord channel, and then we'll circle back on some of these NHA against the house props and see what else we could find over there. But Lippy wants to know thoughts on Klay Thompson, please and thanks.
No thoughts. Different slate. Could Klay go out and make 11 threes tonight in Oklahoma City? Sure, he could, but like, he's 6,700. I can't do it.
I
have 0. I don't have a single share of a Golden State Warrior today.
I have, let's see. I do have some Klay exposure. Once again, nothing really significant. And I have a lineup with Andrew Wiggins as well. But
the Wiggins correlation.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I did. I was like, how could I get Andrew and Aaron Wiggins in the same lineup? Because I know that they're going to correlate. When they're in the same lineup, they just want to show out. They want to impress each other. They want to play better. And you get a 5% fantasy score increase when they're the same lineup. So we
just need one person to get really good out of like Morris, Bogdanovich, Morris. Like there's just so many. There's 3 Morrises. I just thought Monty Morris. You can throw him in the middle. I know he's not one of the twins. There it is. Kenrich Williams starting. Hello. I had a feeling OKC was just going to say screw it. I like Kenrich Williams. I thought they might go small. He's 4,500. He played 30 minutes in his last start. I think that's a decent enough play there.
Yeah, starting lineup: SGA, Giddey, Wiggins, Aaron Wiggins for OKC, Jalen Williams, and Kenrich Williams. Always tricky to figure out those OKC starting lineups. So I don't really like to go crazy with anybody. I still think Aaron Wiggins is the best value play here. Would you agree?
Yes, no question.
You know what I just thought of, because we were talking about the brother correlations.
Mm-hmm.
You remember Backyard Baseball? If we had like Amir and Ahmed Khan on the same team, they both got like power increases. I'm just saying that should be something to consider with Aaron and Andrew Wiggins. Are they actually important. Even brothers?
No. You're saying brother correlation. I'm just doing last name correlation, just like Bogdanovich, not related.
Yeah, or else you just play all lineups like Johnson or Thomas's.
However, Rinpack and I did go clubbing in Miami together.
Ooh.
Saw Bogdanovich. He was letting loose a little bit.
Was he dancing?
Bogdan. He was dancing. He was enjoying himself a good time at the old club. That's for damn sure. I would too if I played in the NBA.
Who was behind him between you and Ryan?
Let's see. No, sandwiched. I was definitely in front. I liked it.
Good choice.
It was fun. Thank you. Yeah, because fuck him.
Yeah. I mean, why? He's a big basketball player. Shane Daly, have you ever? Does Westbrook close when LeBron is in? One of the things.
No comment. And
then, does Westbrook close when LeBron is in, and does he close tonight? It depends on if he's being Westbrook or not. Basically, like how out of control is he on any given night? It's not consistent. The Lakers kind of play a hot hand approach. I would assume he closes tonight.
Same.
Any comment on the first part of the question?
No, I said no comment specifically, but which those girls down in Wichita State, they are Shockers. So there you go. That would be the opportunity that you would have. What Wichita State Shockers? There you go. Jordan Klein, throw him up.
Yeah, Jordan. What are those gang signs, Jordan?
I was gonna say this is a family show.
Yeah, what are those gang signs over there? What are you doing with your fingers?
Come on now.
Some more questions that we have in the Discord channel. This one is from GG123. Herder, Avdia, and Schroeder, or Beal, Aaron Wiggins, and Thomas Bryant. That is the second one for me.
Same.
As Discord just deleted my mentions again.
That was nice of him.
And then Lippy, thoughts on Murray for Atlanta? Yeah, he's a great play if Trae Young is out, but you're rolling the dice. It depends how risk adverse you want to be.
Yeah, that would be it.
Because I would have zero interest in him if Trae Young plays.
Yeah,
fair to say.
Who?
DeJounte Murray.
Oh, I would have interest sub 8K. He's sub 8K regardless of the news. Like, it is not apocalyptic if he shows up in your lineup sub 8K DeJounte Murray.
And then we've got Zuit, last man in, Jeremy Grant or Klay Thompson. I prefer Jeremy Grant.
I prefer Jeremy Grant. I think Jeremy Grant could end up being awfully nutty if you don't get Nurkic in.
And that that covers all of them. We answered Olrat's question about who would play over Seth Curry.
Have a Nasir Little plan in place too. 3,400 for him. I think he probably ends up getting the start if there's no Josh Hart. 29 minutes last time out. I think he's going to be, he hasn't been a good fantasy point per minute guy, but we've seen a couple of times going back to last year where he gets the start and plays 38 minutes, 36 minutes out of the middle of nowhere and just smashes slates. So at 3,400, I'd be willing to roll that dice. I just don't know if I can plan for it. Embiid is just destroying, by the way.
Let's see what is going on, because we haven't really had a break in the action to check the results of this early.
It's like Harry Potter.
Well, first of all, this game appears to be heading towards a blowout.
Joel Embiid woke up angry today, is what we learned. By the way, a steal and 2 blocks on the old FanDuel.
Yeah, I was going to say, I looked at Embiid's line at first. I'm like, that's not really that crazy. And then I saw all the defensive stats. 6 points, 3 boards, 3 assists in the first quarter from Embiid. Nothing crazy, but then he does have a steal and 2 blocks. But Sixers are up 25-9 in that game. I feel fairly decent projecting a blowout at this point.
We got Jonathan Isaac on the floor. That just gives me warm fuzzies every time I see him. He's been through a lot.
That's one way to put it. And some of it's self-imposed. But Jonathan Isaac is...
Oh, yeah. That's a different conversation.
OG Anunoby out 4 more games. How long is it in between games for Isaac? 2 years?
Yeah, it was over. I think it was like 2.5 years, actually. He didn't play in the bubble, I don't think.
No, that was when...
Jonathan Isaac. He came to the league 2017. He did not play all of 2020, 2021, all of 2021, 22. He had not played. I don't remember him in the bubble. Did Orlando even make the bubble? I thought they did. Oh, that's right. Good talk. Rudy Gobert available to play Monday. Thank God we don't have to deal with 100% Nas Reed.
They're going to put Rudy Gobert's question on the injury report like indefinitely at this point.
The new LeBron James and Anthony Davis.
There's a bunch of those. Like Nurkic is another one.
But Nurkic
He's
sat
always-
last game, so that's kind of.
But he's
I
still-
suppose. Yeah.
But he's still been on the injury report every game for like 2 months now.
Josh Richardson ruled out now. Does that do anything for you?
Yes. So, I mean, we're about to head out here, but just off the top of my head, SoCan and Kata Bates Shop are going to look a little bit better.
So can Sam, baby. Let's go.
Right.
So can the toucan. I screwed that joke up. I'm leaving.
Yeah, they always say to leave on a high note, but that's not what we're going to do today, guys. Thank you very much for watching. If you didn't do it yet, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Eric and I will be here right back tomorrow to see if Eric can redeem himself.
Shameful.